A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Matt Williams got a brilliant start from the third row of the grid.
He's gone, he's hit him, he's straight off at the chase.
And a half-second lead on with the sizzling car in the background.
He has it. Oh, he's round, he's round on the last lap.
There's a massive, massive accident.
Next to the inside, what a move, what a move.
A very good evening to everybody, wherever you are watching around this big blue planet we call Earth. Welcome to round 2 of the AMS Oz GT3 World Challenge. We are coming to you from the fabled Monza circuit, just north of Milan in Italy. And this is being deemed somewhat of a redemption round. The last time we were here, there was all sorts of chaos under the safety car, but the last race we ran in the GT3 World Challenge went flag to flag, so hopefully more of the same tonight, and it'll be interesting to see what sort of results we get at the end of the night's proceedings. Nether here from the AMS Oz and Apex Rear Wing TV team, and also, as always, in the box with me is Bagsy. How are you today, Bagsy?
I'm excellent, Nether, and happy to be back here at the Temple of Speed, that is Monza. It's a beautiful spot in the metropolitan city of Milan, or just outside it really. It's about half an hour north of the city, and a track that I've been lucky enough to actually go to and watch cars go around in anger.
Yes, I was about to allude to the point that this is one of the very few circuits you have visited in real life. Obviously, very recently we all trekked up to Bathurst to Mount Panorama for the 12-hour, but this is one of the ones that you've flown away. So we'll get to the circuit in just a few moments and all the details about it, but first of all we'll have a look at the calendar. So there we are. We started off last round 2 weeks ago at Barcelona, and a race which was won by Lewis Wedding in his McLaren, and there it is, second on the list, Autodromo Nazionale di Monza in Italy, and there we are, the 3rd of March, the second of our three race European leg, with the big one to come in 2 weeks' time. Driver point situation. So with one race in the books, the pro standings look a little bit like this. So Lewis Wedding, with his outright victory last round, has top spot in his McLaren with 25 points from Brenton Foley, who was a half minute behind Lewis at the checkered flag. In second, Ozrob, Greg Nangle. Heath Dixon's been classified a finisher despite running out of fuel on the final lap. He has been given that position. He was 6th overall on the road, but 5th in classification. Philip Boak, Brock Harvey and Mike Coulston, the only other point scorers from the pro category in that race. A couple of DNFs during the race. The GT AM situation, there was only 3 runners and they all finished in last race. So Brennan Ross actually finished 3rd outright, an outright podium at the last race, a great result for him. So he takes 25 points. Steve Bolger in the Lamborghini and Glenn Miles in the Cadillac taking 3rd, despite running into Mike Coulston at the very beginning of the race. He did bring the Cadillac home and therefore gets some points for his championship cause. Now on to tonight's circuit. As we said, it is the fabled Temple of Speed. It is 5.793 kilometres long, 11 turns, and we reckon we're going to get around about 48 to 52 laps, depending on if we go green flag all the way. Bagsy, as we said before, this is one of the circuits you visited in real life. It's a fantastic circuit, but what are you going to be looking out for tonight?
Well, this is a very fast circuit, obviously. It's the Temple of Speed, so really it's about how fast your car is in a straight line. So some of the cars like the Mercedes are going to have a bit of an advantage because they are some of the more powerful cars, but there's plenty of corners for you to stuff it up on. All the chicanes can be very difficult, especially the Ascari chicane, which you really need to attack. It's a very flowing chicane, there's barely any brakes on the way in, but if you get that line wrong, you can end up in the gravel on either side, and even at the end of the corner when you're still essentially straight lining it, if you get that a little bit too wide, you'll get either a track cut, which you don't get many of, or you're going to go onto the grass and potentially spin, which we did see happen to a couple of people last time out here. The two Lesmos, also very difficult, medium speed corners. Apart from the chicanes, the slowest part on the track. So, and we saw Greg Nangle go spearing off there last time we were here as well, which was not ideal for him. And obviously, slipstreaming down the long main straight will be the way to get past people. First chicane is the best overtaking opportunity on the track, and we're doing essentially a Grand Prix distance here. Grand Prix is 53 laps, so assuming we go flag to flag, you'll be pretty close to a Grand Prix distance.
Yeah, it'll be mighty close. You're absolutely right. And it'll be interesting to see, as you just mentioned, about the slipstreaming effect. There are a number of cars and drivers that are team-oriented in this field, so the likes of the FCR crew and so on and so forth, that may employ some team tactics in qualifying, which we are about to flick over to right now, which has just started. Now, the man who was on the pole... the man who was on the pole the pointy end rather at the end of practice 1 was Will Devonish. He set a 47.3 as we pick up Brenton Foley heading a bit of a train out of. Oh, we've already got somebody spearing off there in the background. I think that's someone that might be in the guest Audi. If we can try and pick up that particular car. No, it's Corey Ott. So Corey Ott making his return now. Last time we were talking about Corey Ott, he was looking at bringing on, I think, the Lexus, the RCF Lexus alongside Dwayne Davies, but we haven't seen either of them. This is the first time we've seen Corey Ott, and already having a bit of a right handful trying to get to grips with that car. We haven't seen him for quite some time. But we'll pick up Brenton Foley again, because he looks like the man that's about to start the first flying lap. He's got a Mercedes there for company. It looks like that might be Matt Williams tucked under his rear wing, I think. Yes, it is. He's got the O'Neill strip across the top of the windshield, so he'll follow Foley around for this lap.
It looked like Corey Ott was doing an excellent job of showing us how difficult the Lesmos can be there.
Yeah, certainly. Well, let's have a bit of a look at this circuit as we follow Foley and Williams around this circuit. And we'll give
Williams is going to have a pass on the first flying lap, which is cheeky, but also not going to help either of their lap times.
No, certainly not. So here we go, down into turns 1 and 2, the Varianti Rettifilio, the Rettifilio chicane, right over left, and then all the way on the power up to Curva Grande. So the big sweeping long right-hander. Tuck it in nicely, and then you want to use a little bit of curb for the next chicane, which is the Della Roggia chicane, the 4th and 5th, as Matt Williams bails out of that one. You don't want to take too much curb there, you just want to grab it just as nicely as Foley did there because of the sausage curbs on the inside. Then medium speed corners here, Lesmo 1. Again, a little bit of camber to the inside of the road. Use the ripple strip on the outside. Braking for Lesmo 2. Again, curb on the inside. Use as much of the outside curb as you dare. Don't put a foot on the grass. And now a little bit of respite and hard on the power down under the old banking towards the Ascari chicane. As you said, Bagsy, this is one of the seat of your pants rides. So a little bit of brake on the way in, bit of curb on the left. Hold it against the curb on the right, and then again take a bit more curb on the left, and then use all the exit curb. Get a nice straight exit, hard on the power again, down to the final turn, which is the Parabolica. Another medium to high speed corner, little bit of braking on the way in, just to settle the nose in the front of the car and get it to turn in. Tuck it in nicely. Waiting on the power, and when you get to the point where you bury it, spot the exit curb, use as much as you want and straighten your run as much as you can toward the line. Foley's going to set the first marker here. It won't be the best lap because it was slightly compromised, but it's a 47.5. It's only 2/10 off of Devonish's pace from practice.
Yeah, Devonish, though, is looking like he's going to go faster. He's going to be coming around
here he is.
Relatively soon.
We've got him on screen here. He's just come out of the Parabolica and up to the line now, so he's going to set a 47 as well, but it's a 47.7. So he goes into second, splits Foley and Turra, and Bolger slots into 4th in the other Lamborghini as well. So following his, not his teammate around, but following his fellow Lamborghini driver around, and not a bad time from Steve Bolger as well. Jamie Snow making his first appearance as well in the GT series, having missed the last round at Barcelona. He's done a 48.5. Not a bad effort there as well. Noah Turra. Now, we did... he's in the McLaren. Now, we did have a bit of a stab at whether it was a son or a daughter or a sibling or a relative. It's actually the son of Greg Turra. So we've had that officially confirmed. and he's popped up into 7th. Matt Williams, the only other runner to set a time so far. So 8 times on the board out of the 15 drivers in the field, and we've got 10 minutes remaining in qualifying.
A couple of fast people out there though. Greg Nangle has set similar pace to our current leader, which is Heath Dixon. Now he's popped in a fast lap.
Yeah, here comes Nangle to the line, and he's done a 47.5, so this is really getting tight. Heath Dixon to the top, so Dixon with a 47.4, just millimetres ahead of Foley, so really got the mumbo going in that big old Bentley.
Yeah, we've got less than a tenth of a second between the top 3 at the moment. As yeah,
and he's had a bit of a moment there out of
the lap done.
Aborts it, and Foley's had a track violation, it looks like, so he didn't set a time on that previous 2-up. See Nangle now, he's man who sits in 3rd. The come down to the sector 1 split just on the backside of the chicane, and a nice time too. So down his PB, but up on the P1.
Has just gone fastest by half a second.
What a wallop that is. Will Devonish, a 46.9. Catch me if you can, says the Lamborghini driver. And he is absolutely thrown down the gauntlet. First man under the 47 bracket all session long and all race week. Actually, I think that's the fastest time we've actually seen across all the practice sessions as well, as when I scroll down. And yes, indeed it is. It is the quickest time that we've seen over all the practice sessions this week as well. Great job, Devonish.
Got an angle looking like he might be able to slot into second
Devonish
as he comes down towards Parabolic.
Devonish going quicker again. He's found another 2/10 in sector 1, so he's really on it, and probably getting a little bit of a slipstream as well from the Mercedes AMG ahead of him as he now comes out of Lesmo 2 and runs down under the banking towards Ascari. I wouldn't put it past you, Bagsy, that there's going to be a further improvement to his lap time coming up if he can get this chicane absolutely spot on. Who's that he's following? It looks like that's Jamie Snow he's following as well. The Lamborghini.
He's probably going to be getting held up a little bit here, and he's in some dirty air now.
Yeah, at Lamborghini.
And I think Jamie Snow's on a fast lap too, so I think he's going to get held up into Parabolica.
Well,
4/10 up.
4/10 up through 2 sectors is a mighty effort, and Devonish is looking like he wants to go down the inside here, but he's just going to be a bit, it's going to get a bit, I'm just looking for the right word at the time, it's going to be a bit dicey, but look, you're right,
Yeah,
they're both
he's
on
not making that one.
If they're both on a fast lap, then they've both got a right to be there, but we'll see what Devonish can do, but he's not only is he throwing down the gauntlet to Jamie Snow, but he's also throwing down the gauntlet to the others. I mean, he still went half a second quicker. Amazing to think what on earth he would have done if he hadn't have been behind Jamie Snow. He could have probably found even more time, but...
To be fair, he was helped a lot by the slipstream of Jamie Snow in several points on the track, so you could argue that it balances out.
Absolutely. But this is what precisely we were talking about just before we went to qualifying, taking advantage of the slipstream, and anybody that can employ the right tactics at the right time is going to come out on top, and Will Devonish, take a bow. He's done it to perfection.
Despite being behind Jamie Snow there, he still set a purple final sector, so that slipstream really did help a lot.
Absolutely did. Well, he's a second off his pace on this particular lap. We've got 3 drivers that haven't actually set a time yet. So Lewis Wedding, Brock Harvey and Corey Ott. So Corey Ott's now set a first sector there. He's 1.2 seconds off the top time at the moment in the number 2 Audi. Brock Harvey jumps up into 11th place there with his first effort. Lewis Wedding jumps up into P7 with his first effort as well. So Corey Ott, the only man yet to set a time. As under the banking he goes towards Ascari, pursued by the Bentley of Dixon.
Just looking at the people who aren't, the race for people who aren't Will Devonish at the moment, he is almost a second ahead of the field, 8 tenths ahead of Brenton Foley at the moment. But then after that we have well, Matt Williams' time is actually not showing up at the moment. It seems to be it's having some issues on our timing screen, but there is essentially less than a 100th of a second between Foley and Matt Williams, between Matt Williams and Greg Nangle, only a 10th back to Heath Dixon, 7 thousandths back to Greg Tara, and 6 thousandths back to Lewis Wedding. So essentially, 2nd through 11th is within a second of each other.
Now this is a little bit cheeky. Corey Ott and Heath Dixon actually going outside the white lines to try and set the time. So Corey Ott actually ends up P13, and Dixon doesn't improve his time by doing so, trying to follow Ott to get the slipstream. But that's all 15 runners have at least set a time here. Lewis Wedding trying to get some heat into those tyres in the background now. I think he's actually aborted that lap now. Oz Rob here in the 555, the only BMW in the field. Currently P11, heading down towards the Ascari chicane. Surprised to see not very many of the teams employing some tactics here. So obviously Foley, and at the moment it's Rhodey, or Ben Rhodes, as some of you might know him, is filling in for Philip Boak this round in the other Bentley, so they haven't employed any team tactics. Neither of the FCR guys employed any team tactics in terms of slipstreaming as well, so the likes of Nangle Ross and Matt Williams all sort of going their separate ways, and you look where they are. So Williams is up in 4th, then you've got, where we look down, Brendan Ross, third place in the last round, is down in 10th, and Nangle's up in 2nd, so they've all decided to go their separate ways. Actually, Nangle has jumped up into 2nd too, so he's outpaced Foley and Williams, and Dixon left them behind. As Ozrob improves his lap time to a 47.997, but only by just less than a tenth, so probably got a little bit of a toe from Foley in that last sector, but still a lot of time to find, and getting into the better part of just under 4 minutes remaining, and the man at the top of the field is a mile clear, but the battle for the remaining front row place is very much alive. Brendan Ross has now jumped up into 3rd place, so the Mercedes drivers coming to the fore, Bagsy. You called this earlier. You said the Mercedes drivers are probably going to have a little bit of an extra power advantage, and at the moment, that's what they've got.
Yeah, we've still got this incredibly close battle in the midfield too, between Heath Dixon, Greg Turra, Lewis Wedding and Jamie Snow, all within a tenth of each other. Wedding, Turra and Dixon are all within 100th of each other. It's incredibly close. It's a matter of milliseconds over 2 rows of the field.
It's very, very tight from 3rd on back. As you can see, there's only about 4 tenths separating. What's that? About 8 cars there at the moment. So anything is possible. As we've actually just seen another driver move in the field there. I think that was Jamie Snow jumping up ahead of Heath Dixon. So again, more a tenth here or a tenth there, and you're moving 2 or 3 places at a time. So it's very, very close throughout the field. Devonish looks like he's going to be in a class of his own at the moment. In actual fact, Devonish out for redemption. Speak of being redemption round, I think they had an internet disconnection in the previous race, and he was quite very well in the battle with Lewis Wedding for race victory at Barcelona. Got passed by Wedding after the first sequence of stops, and then ended up with a disconnect, so pretty much left Lewis Wedding to sail on to victory. So he's got a point to prove and a chip on his shoulder at the moment, Will Devonish. He really wants to get back on an even keel with Lewis and put some points on the table. Just over 2 minutes remaining. And where is everybody at? So we're watching
Matt Williams on a fast lap. He set a purple middle sector and a personal best first sector. He's about to come across the line here in his Mercedes.
Here he comes to the line. Can he dive into the 46s?
Oh, he's gone first.
He's gone to first. Where did that come from? Matt Williams, take a bow. Absolutely delivered. And he'll be mighty, mighty pleased with that effort. Now, look at this. Will Devonish and Lewis Wedding following each other around the circuit. Will's got to respond if he wants. He's on the front row, but we know that Will had a little bit of pace in hand, but he's got no carrot this time around, so he's got no slipstream, so he's going to have to do it all on his own. I think Lewis is going to try and follow him and pick up a few extra places or so.
I think Matt Williams is content that that's going to be the best lap he'll do of the night,
well,
because he's staying in the pit lane.
That is a stellar lap. I mean, even if he came out now, he wouldn't get around for another lap, because we've only got 1:12 left on the board, and everybody that's on circuit now, this is the last chance. And looks like is Lewis? No, Lewis hasn't backed out of it. We thought he was backing out for a minute. So Devonish on the fly here, down to the first chicane, Loretta Filio, hard on the anchors. Talking to Brock Harvey before the race tonight, and he's just in awe at how late Will is on the brakes, and he's got load cell pedals and all with all the sim gear he has.
Just jumped up 5 spots to 3rd.
He certainly has
finally pumped in a representative time.
Quick time starting to come thick and fast. What's Devonish's time? Under the bridge, down to the Della Roggia chicane. Oh, he's backed it in there and he's lost it. That's going to be his lap gone.
All over.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was up as well.
Yeah, I think that might have also been because he shortcut the chicane too, so it probably gave him a bit more speed through there than he did. Tara, the next man through the chicane. Tara up on his PB, but not up on the first place thing. So Greg Tara could potentially vault himself onto the front row here for Mercedes AMG and Lone Wolf Cubs.
Very close to being able to get one more lap. I'm not sure if he'll be able to though.
No, he's out of time. So this is his last one, and he'll come to the line. He'll set a 46.967. So good enough for fourth. Good improvement. And actually, Greg Tara's
next across the line.
Tara's backed out of it. So Noah Tara next across the line, and where's he? He's 14th on the list in the McLaren, and his best lap was a 50.3. He's well off that now, so he's had a little bit of a mistake somewhere, but he'll start P14. Meanwhile, who else is the highest ranked one that's on the circuit minute? Jamie Stowe finished 7th. Brenton Foley is 6th, but he's a second off the top time. He's 2/10 off his own PB, so not sure if Foley can find anything for that Bentley in this final sector. He's the only real man that can improve.
Weddings jumped up one position.
He's actually had he's had a moment through the parabolica, so no, any attempt he would have had as he tried to pedal it is gone. So
Steve Bolger's the last one left.
Yeah, Steve
and he set 2 personal bests.
Here comes Steve Bolger through the parabolica, looking like potentially jumping up. He is only a 10th and a bit behind Corey Ott and 2.5 behind Dixon. Can he find anything here? No, he's in the pit lane. No. So that is that. So everybody is done. And the man who comes out on top is Matt Williams, and he'll be mighty pleased with that pole position to unseat Will Devonish, who we thought a couple of them with about 5 minutes to go in that session was virtually untouchable. But at the end of the day, he's got a 10th margin to Will Devonish, and he's got a 2.5 tenth gap back to Brennan Ross, and also Brennan Ross, big shout out. So he's carrying over his Barcelona form. Look at all those Mercedes in the top 5. 4 of the top 5 cars, all Mercedes powered.
Yeah, we sort of expected that to happen. That was an absolutely mega lap from Matt Williams. He pulled it out of absolutely nowhere. We were expecting Devonish to be competitive, but I don't think we expected Matt Williams to be this competitive. He is a good driver, but to be honest, at the start of the season, he probably wasn't considered amongst those who could really put in an excellent lap like that, and he's definitely proved those doubters wrong.
Oh, by a long way. He's absolutely proved those doubters wrong. And just looking at some of the sector splits as well, very evenly matched, some of these guys in the sector splits. And it was just, a couple of hundredths in a couple of different sectors that did it for Matt Williams. He was literally pegging Devonish all the way. I think the better sector that he had, believe it or not, was the middle sector, which is the point from the back end of the second chicane all the way right through to Ascari. So that he must have got a very good exit off of that chicane and then had a brilliant run through the Lesmos, and then he finds himself on the top step of the pile with a chasing pack behind. We've actually just had Glenn Miles pop into the server as well, so it gives us 16 runners. So Glenn Miles will be starting from the back, and I have it on good authority from Playboy Racing team owner Brian Walsh that some very harsh words were exchanged after Glenn's indiscretion at Barcelona. For those of you who didn't catch that particular broadcast, he actually ran into the back of Mike Coulston literally at the start of the race. He went too early, went before the green flag was shown, and consequently didn't put them out of the race, but they both finished, but he severely hampered the pair of those cars at the opening stint. They basically were nearly a half a lap behind the field by the time they got themselves sorted out.
Yeah, Coulston ended up a lap down, and unfortunately it essentially ended his race. There was no safety cars for him to try and get past or get the lucky dog or anything like that. So it was, unfortunate and not what you really want to see while the cars are still under control, essentially, even the race hadn't started. So, something Glenn Miles will want to forget, but he will come back stronger, I'm sure.
It'd probably be a little bit easier, I guess, for them this particular race as well, because with Barcelona, they're all having to line up side by side and get around the last 2 turns as well. So getting around that final turn, the start-finish straight actually comes up on you rather quickly, or the start-finish line rather comes up on you rather quickly. So probably would have anticipated that the field would have already gone by then. Whereas here at Monza, as you look at the screenshot on your screens right now, you can see where the start-finish line is, where those control lights are, and there's such a nice big long drag off the final corner. So plenty of time for the cars to get themselves sorted out and to see when the race leader goes. And also that big wide section on the other side of the solid white line on the front straightaway should serve for a bit of extra runoff just in case anything silly was to happen.
That being said, we could go into a much tighter corner for the first corner compared to Barcelona. Barcelona is relatively sweeping as a corner, and you can go through side by side. It's very difficult to go through side by side in these cars at this chicane. It's very much, well, one of the tightest chicanes you'll find. I don't know how many others there are apart from, say, the chicanes in Monaco. I don't think there's anything tighter, really.
No, it's very, very... In actual fact, you're looking at the picture there, and you can see how wide the front straight piece there is, but it does narrow as it gets down to the Rettifilio chicane. And you can get through there side by side, but it does take a lot of effort and a lot of respect to get done. And some cars, I feel, tonight are going to have to take to the escape roads if they sense that they're not going to be able to get through, rather than ruin their race or ruin someone else's. They're just going to need to take to the escape road and be sensible about it. But they've got to make sure that they don't gain any positions by doing so, and that they probably end up joining at the back of the field. Better to actually be in the field and still running, rather than have a penalty hanging over you or ruin somebody else's race.
Exactly. It's a 90-minute race. You can't win it with any race. You can't win it on the first corner unless that race is literally through the first chicane, in which case one could make the case you would be able to. But this is a 90-minute race. We're going through that first chicane upwards of 50 times. You're not going to win it the first time through. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. There was talk of reprofiling the first chicane for Monza a little while ago, and instead of having that chicane, you'd go straight on into Curva Grande, and there would be a chicane approximately halfway through Curva Grande. So you'd be slowing in a corner, but it would also give time for cars to be a bit more spread out. But I believe that has fallen through last I checked, because it's in a national park. There's rules about how many trees you can remove and add and things like that. Plus, I believe it was to accommodate MotoGP, which I don't think is planning on coming to Monza anymore. Yeah,
as you're right, you're actually just mentioning there the planned work for that actually took place in 2016, and it looks like they were suspended due to being in the park. So it doesn't look like it's going to go ahead. But I mean, they have reprofiled a couple of bits of Monza over the years as well. Originally, the first chicane ended up being a left over right over left, as opposed to the current format, which is just a simple right over left chicane now. So they have been able to make minor modifications to things like that, but unfortunately for them, the plans in 2016 have fallen through. And I dare say probably not the last time that we'll probably hear about things happening at Monza. I mean, there was even a rumour that they were going to look at restoring the historic banking and run some events on there again at some point. That was something I heard rather recently.
Well, they definitely need a lot of work. I was able to walk on them after the Grand Prix a couple of years ago. It's a spot that they try and keep cordoned off, but it's amazing how steep that banking is. You can't really do justice to it until you actually get there. Sort of, even if you imagine Bristol Motor Speedway, which probably has the steepest banking of any track left, it's almost double that. It really is quite ridiculous, and it's amazing how fast they would have gone around that track back in the day, given the technology of the time. Cornering that fast probably wasn't really, well, we know it wasn't safe because many cars went flying over the top there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That there's been plenty of movies that have highlighted things like that as well. So it definitely hasn't been a happy hunting ground. Plenty of deaths here at this circuit in the early years, especially when take into when the likes of Fangio and co were running around, and how, I guess, rudimentary safety was back then, or almost non-existent safety was back then, to what it is now. I mean, you wouldn't want to dare run on banking like that. I mean, we've only got to remember what happened at Indianapolis and how the banking is there. It's not very much elevated compared to the likes of Monza and other circuits, but it's enough in a Formula One car, or was enough in a Formula One car in those days, to upset the tyres and cause a lot of teams to pull out, and ultimately what ended up being the last race in America for quite some time.
Yeah, it was. Although I think that was not just the banking that was involved there, but it was the way they diamond groove cut the track, which Michelin weren't prepared for. They could have made tyres that would have worked on that, but they didn't have the research, essentially, because Bridgestone, through their Firestone brand, they had raced there in IndyCar, so they were able to. They knew, all right, there's going to be this much issue with the diamond cut grooves, because it had only been done that year. There was no issue in 2003, and so Michelin sort of went in blind and were found wanting, unfortunately.
Well, the engine you heard in the background is, I believe, one of the Mercedes engines, as everybody has come out of the driver's briefing, and they've got about 2.5 minutes on the clock until the race starts. So a number of them will probably be out there trying to get some practice laps in, and also practice their pit ins and pit exits. So we'll pick up the action again just with a few minutes remaining.
But Noah Tara out there in his McLaren getting a bit extra track time in, which is always good for the youngster. It's nice to be able to say we've got some youngsters in the series. We've got people of all ages, really. It's nice that we've got a large contingent of people, because it's sort of a hobby that tends to skew a bit older.
Yeah, it does. And on top of that, we're getting a healthy turnout as well. So we ended up with 16 to 18 runners in the last race. We've got a 15 here tonight. A few drivers that haven't been able to attend, as you said, due to personal commitments and that as well, but we hope to see them back. So Brian Walsh is out there watching the stream tonight, and hopefully he'll be with us in races to come. And we just actually noticed that Glenn Miles has dropped out of the service, so we're back to 15 runners again. So a couple of guys that have also signed up for the series, so the likes of Andy Simpson and that participated in the last race but didn't finish, and obviously real life commitments getting in the way. Andy Simpson is actually listed, believe it or not, to run in the Vic State Series this weekend, where I've been over at Sandown with Ben Rhodes and Matt Dunlop doing a little bit of commentary work down there, and he was actually scheduled to run the Toyota 86 in improved production. Must have been a Friday exercise for them, because he wasn't there on the weekend, but he was definitely listed on the running sheet. But he's doing some work with SEAL Team Racing this year in 86 and Formula Ford, I believe. So he'll keep an eye out for him. He's very quick in the sim world, and he's also going to look like he might be very quick on the track as well. Plenty of sim racers have been able to make the jump into the real life world as well, and some of you have probably seen Ethan Griggold. He ran a couple of races in the supercars for AMS Oz, and he was the Aussie Driver Search Amateur Champion last year, and he's actually running in the Toyota 86 this year, which is a support category to the V8 supercars at a couple of rounds, so best of luck to him as well. And Mr. Harvey there in the background adding some stuff in as well.
Chris McIver, stick.
That's it. And Chris McIver, he's in the XLs and done the same thing as well, and also plenty of experience under his belt. As the clock goes to 0, we're watching Corey Ott just do a little practice lap there. So only a handful of people came out just for their practice runs, just out of the driver's briefing. So actually Brock's with us at the moment. So Brock, do you want to give us a quick insight? Anything major discussed in the driver's briefing that we should know about, or is it just all the common sense?
Pretty much all common sense, mate, to be honest. Typical don't weave under Australian GT3 rules. Yeah, don't weave on the wall.
Beautiful. You heard it from...
Too crazy.
Not too crazy. So all a bit of common sense as we wait for the drivers all to grid up. So 15 car field, and we set for 90 minutes around this iconic Monza circuit just north of Milan in Italy. So we expect we're going to get probably about 48 to 52 laps. Our prediction was almost pretty much spot on last round, Bagsy, so we got right on the marker of I think it was 53 laps that we did, or 53, 54 laps.
Yeah, helped by the lack of safety car made the division pretty easy for us, really.
Yeah, it certainly did, and that's why we've gone the same again here. Gone, you know what? If we can get sort of at the lower end of the scale and the higher end of the scale, and we don't think we'll get beyond 52. But if it goes flag to flag, they'll give that 52 marker a shake as the pace car leads them away. And we do need to make note that the pace car, even though it looks like a Heath Dixon Bentley Continental, it's a little mistake Lewis has made. So that will be corrected after the next round at the fabled Le Mans circuit. So for the moment, it is a Bentley Continental, and we look through the field here as Will Devonish mucks it up at the chicane. So it's Matt Williams for FCR Motorsport Team Scrouse in that Mercedes AMG, beautifully put onto pole for the lap there. Will Devonish will start out of P2 in the Belong Willie P Race Engineering Lamborghini Huracan. Brendan Ross continuing his good form from the first race at Barcelona. He sits up in P3 in the AMG GT3. Greg Turra in the Mercedes AMG in P4. Greg Nangle P5 in another Mercedes. It's starting to look a bit ominous up the front here. Brenton Foley, the first of the Bentley Continentals in the number 74 PBF Race Engineering car. Jamie Snow on his return, also in the Mercedes AMG, starting at P7. Lewis Wedding buried right in the midfield in that McLaren in P8. Didn't get the run that he wanted. Heath Dixon, the second of the Bentleys, in P9, and alongside him, Coriot in P10. Basically, it looks a little bit interesting a bit further back, so from P11 onwards.
Yeah, we've got Steve Bolger for FG Racing in that Lamborghini, that wonderful red and white Lamborghini. Next to him is Brock Harvey. He's giving us a flash of the lights there. Thank you, Brock. Alongside him, Ozrob, or rather behind him, Ozrob in the Mercedes. They've got Noah Tara in the McLaren. And rounding out the field is Roydie, who is standing in PBF Race Engineering. He'll probably be looking to have just a chill race and make it to the end, hopefully. Just one quick thing to note before we go racing. Heath Dixon is apparently nursing an injury. He's had an unspecified hand injury, so we'll see if he's able to make the race distance with that.
Well, he's currently set up in P number 9, Heath Dixon, so he just needs to bring it home and do what he did last round, and maybe that hand injury might actually beat his minute. What on earth is Will Devonish doing here? He's backing the field right up on the inside there, and they can't pass him, so I'm a bit concerned about what's going on. Has Will Devonish got a problem? Has Will Devonish got some sort of internet drama? Because this is not what we're kind of expecting to see, and this is going to throw the whole field out. Are we going to get an aborted start here, or what's going to happen? The safety car's gone. The safety car's gone in, and this is not what we were expecting to see. I'm a bit concerned here because the field's racing to catch up, and they're all in single file. Matt Williams has got control of it, but there's going to might be penalties galore here. We could be having a restart.
Yeah, we might have to restart here. I'm not sure what happened to Will Devonish there, but this is peculiar. There we go. We're seeing all these penalties come through now. We're almost certainly going to have a restart here.
Yeah, I tend to agree. That's probably not the way this... Yeah, look at them all. They've all got... Actually, the only one that's got a penalty out of that was Brendan Ross, and that's not the way we wanted it to happen, but it's a single file start, and for some reason they're all still going for it. Anyway, if they are going for it, Matt Williams is out in front, and it's a Mercedes 1, 2, 3, 4 at the moment, but Brendan Ross, the man that has a penalty hanging over his head, sitting into P2. I've no idea what happened to the man that was supposed to start at P2, Will Devonish, but that wasn't completely unexpected.
Everyone, like Steve Bolger's up in 7th now because so many of the people who were meant to be ahead of him at the start, they were behind Will Devonish. They couldn't go anywhere. So that's a very, very peculiar start. Everyone behind Devonish has just been shuffled back essentially most of the positions. Like Lewis Wedding's down in 12th now, when he was a long way up in comparison. He started from 8th, so I'm not sure why this has happened.
And the big loser out of that is going to be Brendan Ross, because he's going if they do keep this the way that it is, he's going to have to make a green flag stop-go penalty, and it's going to ruin his race unless a safety car comes out. So not an ideal situation. But meanwhile, out in front, Matt Williams leads for FCR Team Scrouse in the Mercedes AMG, it's the SLS, that Matt Williams is running, the SLS AMG, and then Brennan Ross in the AMG GT, and then behind them is Greg Nangle, also in the SLS AMG car. So top 4 are all Mercedes driven. Heath Dixon's moved up to 5th. As Brennan Ross comes down to the line, we're just watching him there. He's down on Matt Williams by 1.5 seconds. So Williams clearing out. And down the back here, it's Heath Dixon trying to get a bit of a toe on Jamie Snow. And back behind them, the man who caused all the havoc, Will Devonish, is being passed on the inside by Brent Foley. Geez, he backed that in a long way, and Foley's going to have to get out of that, and he'll have to surrender the place. But on top of that, he's going to surrender.
He might lose the spot to Ozrob.
Yeah, he is too. There he goes. He knew the rules. He knew he had to surrender it, and he knew that Rob was too close. So Will Devonish, I was just about to say, the man that caused the kerfuffle at the start of the race there, for some unknown reason, has made his way back up into 6th place. Got a whole pack of angry Mercedes to get through. But Foley, geez, he backed it in on that lap and couldn't
He also
quite
have
pull it off.
an angry pack of half the field.
Oh, then we got there's that Turra back off the field. So Turra at the
and
back.
Noah Turra's had a spin as well at the same time.
So Greg Turra just a little bit of a moment there coming out of the De La Roggia chicane. Let's see if we can pick up what happened to him. Looks like he might have done it all on his own. As he, just the back wheel. And he's managed to keep it. He just tags the wall, and Noah Turra doing something similar. So they both caught the back side of the sausage curb off of that chicane, and ended up having a minor off. So lucky to get away with minimal damage there, Greg Turra, but it's put him all the way down to 13th.
Heath Dixon's not letting his injury harm him in any way. He's having a go around the outside of Parabolica on Jamie Snow.
Yeah.
Not the fastest way around there, and he's letting Devonish in here.
Yeah,
Who is going to take? He's going to steal the slipstream from Heath Dixon, from the looks of it, because he's tucked under Jamie Snow, and Heath has nowhere to go. He's been boxed out here.
Yeah, Jamie Snow's had enough of being the slipstreamer, and it's going to be very close to 3 wide here, but Jamie Snow's going to hold the inside here for turn number 1 and 2, and Devonish looks like he's going to sneak up the inside as well, but Dixon manages to still have the high ground here, takes a bit of curb, and just got a little bit hung up on the curb as well, and that allows Devonish the moment that he needed to get through, and for that little issue to be resolved. So Devonish now up to 4th place.
Turra and Harvey battling hammer and tong into the first chicane. They're going to be side by side through Curva Grande. Turra's looking to bring himself up to the preferred line into the second chicane, but Brock Harvey's got in front of him.
Newsflash, Matt Williams is a DNF already. I'm not sure what has gone on, but he is off the timing screen and he is in the garage. So I'm not sure what has happened to Matt Williams, but a disaster for the pole sitter. And that puts Brennan Ross into the lead of this race. However, stop-go penalty to be served, and he has to serve it this lap. He's only got 3 laps to serve a stop-go, and it's definitely not a disconnect for Matt Williams. He's had some sort of in-race issue.
I think it is a disconnect. He was just going down the main straight and then banished.
Well, there you go. Brennan Ross with a 1 second lead at the moment. Greg Nangle in behind, Jamie Snow behind that, and now Will Devonish making a move to the outside of Jamie Snow, but he's not going to be far enough alongside to challenge, is he? No, he goes deeper under brakes and says, I don't care if you're on the inside the preferred line, I'm going in here. And Jamie Snow says, well, you can do that, whatever you want, but I'm going to have the inside and I'm going to drag race you down the front straight, and here they go. Jamie Snow getting a bit cheeky to the other side of the white line, just to make sure he didn't get slipstreamed. Behind there, it's a packet... It's a pack of angry...
He's the new leader. Brendan Ross has come into the pits.
Yep, he's coming to the pits to serve that stop-go. Behind then, look at a pair of angry Bentleys, and through goes... Oh, Brendan Foley's got into the back of Will Devonish and turns him, half spins him. So Devonish, the innocent victim there, Foley just a little bit too hot as a result of that slipstream, and that puts Will Devonish, all that hard work he did, right down the tail end of the field. Replay coming up.
Sure, a couple of people will not be too unhappy to see Devonish spun after the start antics.
Yeah, Foley just backed it in a little bit too much. He's obviously had an issue at that particular turn already, and just got in there way too hot. slipstreaming Heath Dixon and couldn't get it stopped in time. So there will be a little bit of discussion after the race, I think, about that one. Meanwhile, it's...
to be fair to Foley, Devonish was moving a decent amount in the braking zone. He was on one line and then moved across to take the other. So I can see how Foley might feel slightly aggrieved there.
We'll let the stewards sort that one out at the end of the race. Meanwhile, Devonish has to complete all that hard work he did over the last couple of laps. And he's right tucked behind Lewis Wedding, who in turn is right tucked behind Ozrob at the moment. So not much breathing room for all these guys in the midfield, and they're all going at it hammer and tongs, and it's actually quite a close field. Look at this, from who's that? It's from Jamie Snow all the way back to Steve Bolger. It's only separated by about 3 seconds. Here goes Devonish to the inside of Lewis Wedding. Lewis Wedding says, nope, you're not coming through this time, sunshine. A little bit of a bump, and he'll continue on his way. Corey Ott's going to buy into this as well in the number 2 Audi, and it's going to be a 3-car slipstream down this straight. Ozrob's got a little bit of breathing space. Lewis Wedding's got a Lamborghini for company. Corey Ott's trying to hang on to the back of him here. What's going to happen? Down into turn 1. Wedding stays on the racing line. Devonish to the inside. Who's got the big brave balls to break here for the Della Roggia chicane? Oh, Corey Ott has to get out of it and just go straight on. Didn't spot the braking marker at all. And all three of them get through unscathed. Corey Ott rejoins the circuit, and he's going to be immediately under attack from Steve Bolger. But still, Wedding defensive on the racing line, as he's entitled to do. Just escorts Will a little bit offline, gives him the space that he needs. But Will, and a little bit of talking on and rat-a-tat-tat on the rear bumper there. And Lewis is not happy, and don't lose your cool here, Lewis, because the last thing you need to do is get yourself into a penalty situation. But he definitely would not have been happy with that Morse code on the rear quarter panel.
Yeah, he won't be. In the background, we saw Taro has got past Brock Harvey, and also there was yellow flags you might have noticed there. That was Brenton Foley who spun. Is now back down 9th behind this whole group.
Yeah, there he is behind Steve Bolger in a Lamborghini as well.
Heath Dixon has been promoted to a podium.
And on the inside here, Devonish has the left hand. Had the left-hander there for the first part of Ascari at turn 8, but Wedding had the preferred line through 9 and 10, and this battle resumes. And now Corey Ott buying into it again. Who does he go with? Does he go with Wedding? Does he go with Devonish? At the moment, Devonish is going to go down the inside, and there he goes on the brakes, gets it stopped on the marbles, and Corey Ott tried to buy in as well, and Lewis is thinking, geez, what on earth have I got to do to get out of this battle pack here? Foley now latches onto the back of Steve Bolger in the background. Now Lewis Wedding's going to try the same trick to Will Devonish. Geez, this is fantastic racing. Corey Ott's going to try and go with Devonish. No, he's not. He's going to try and go with Wedding. Down the outside this time. Wedding breezes past the Lamborghini, but back on the brakes. There's going to be a 3-wide battle into turn 1. Who's going to come out? Wedding. Wedding gets the job done. Corey Ott round the inside, then down the outside. What a move by Corey Ott, and then Will Devonish in a matter of a few seconds has gone from 5th place to 7th place, having done more hard work and had it all come a cropper again.
Corey Ott broke about 50 metres later, but he's under attack from Devonish now. He broke from so far back, I don't think Devonish is going to be able to go around the outside there, because Corey Ott is very good on the brakes in that Audi. He's got a sixth sense for it almost, because he's braking just at way past the point you think is done, corner gone. We saw it happen last lap to him, but this lap, to be fair, last lap he was avoiding collisions. This lap he had clear track in front of him and used it to his advantage. Yeah,
the previous lap around where he did run off at the turn 1-2 chicane was actually the smart move to do. He knew something was up, he got out of it very early, and then he waited for these guys to go past and then did all the hard work to catch up and get onto the back of them. So did absolutely the right thing, Corey Ott. Very, very smart driver. The only blot on his copybook is from the GT days was when he ran out of fuel at the Adelaide race in GT.
Oh, here we go
Look
again.
at this, hip and shoulders out from Will Devonish on Corey Ott, and down the inside he goes. Ott decides to stay with Wedding. What is Devonish going to do? And what is Wedding going to do? Wedding stays high. He knew that Devonish was coming, and Devonish, he's got his elbows out all right.
He doesn't care. He just goes straight on through.
Straight on through. Now the slipstreaming takes place again. As you said, Dagsy, Temple of Speed, Slipstream City. Here they come.
Second verse, same as the first. Let's see who makes it through the corner this time.
Absolutely. Well, Wedding's going with Devonish. Ott's going to be on the inside here. How late can Ott be on the brakes? Very, very, very late. Backs it in. geez, what a good breaker he is. He managed to make that move look simple. And then he vaults himself up the order to 5th place, but Devonish is not done
Dipped
yet.
the wheel on the grass, though.
He did, and it's compromised his speed very, very slightly. Devonish tries to hang it around the outside, but the inside line's where it's at. Now Ott needs to go defensive, but Devonish is just too close for him to go defensive so early. But Devonish thinks better of it. Ott gives him the space, and now the battle resumes again on the way down to Lesmo. You can't take your eye off these guys. They're changing positions hand over fist, leaving each other some space. Good driving from Ott. Down the inside goes Devonish. Hopefully this is going to be over and done with in the next couple of corners, because I'm starting to run out of breath. Oh, around the back, then we've got around the back.
Bolger goes in the background.
Bolger around the back.
I think while Devonish won the battle, I think Ott might win the war. He's just so much
look at this,
He's
it's grass and everything.
Get past.
Wedding's on the
We've
grass
got 4
as well.
cars going to Ascari. Who's going to come out? Ott's on the inside, despite getting on the grass before. A little bit of a nudge from Devonish, but Ott has made the place again. I don't know how he's managing to do this, but this battle is over 5th place. At the front, people are just galloping away. Nangle's 13 seconds ahead of this. 2 by 2 they go, like they're going onto Noah's Ark, but they're heading down to Parabolica instead. Ott has the high ground on the inside here, and it looks like behind them, Foley's going to try to go around the outside of Wedding. They're going to be side by side. Oh, it's gone wide.
Oh, it's gone very wide, but he's going to have a decent run off the turn here. Somehow Foley's also gotten past Wedding in all of this. So look at this train that comes onto the main straight, headed by Will Devonish. Ott to the inside. Wedding's going to tuck right under the rear wing of the big Bentley behind. 2 by 2, down the front straightaway. Ott on the inside again. Can he back it in and get it done again? Oh, yes, he can. A little bit of push and shove, but they all managed to get through. And Foley behind on Wedding as well is going to continue to hold on here. This is the kind of racing we were hoping for in the last round that we didn't quite really get. The hip and shoulders, arms or elbows are out, but they're doing it so well, and they're not running in, and they're not running each other off the track. Look at this, down the inside again. Devonish had a little look.
Ott missed the chicane.
Ott's missed the chicane. He should cede that position, and is he going to?
I think he's trying to do it in a way that lets Devonish through and no one else.
Yeah,
but he's not done well with this.
No,
he will have to return the position here.
Yeah,
I think he might try and do it into Ascari.
Yeah, Stairs.
We're not even 15 minutes into the race.
No, as Stairs would say, I think Corey Ott tried to be a bit of a canny old fox there and tried to just do it in such a way that he was going to be the beneficiary a couple of corners later after seeding it, but he didn't do a very good job of it at all, as Devonish tries to go around the outside here, and Ott on the inside, and Foley tries to go with Ott, and oh geez, Foley's managed to round up. Foley's managed to round up Devonish.
Yeah.
And now Ott's got about a car.
Trying to be helpful to Devonish, but Devonish isn't playing ball, and so now Devonish is under attack, and this is just going to stuff Corey Ott up, because he's going to have to pass all these guys again, because inevitably he's going to have to let Devonish back through after that chicane incident.
No, meanwhile, the man who they were all pursuing, this quartet were pursuing, Osrob has disappeared up the field. In actual fact, he's past Heath Dixon now as well, so they're losing time hand over fist here. As they come to the line, and this battle, we've been focusing on it for the last 10 minutes. It shows no signs of slowing down because there's not much action out front. This is where it's all at. Devonish hung out to dry there by Foley. No way round. Wedding tries to buy into it, but Foley now moves himself up the field. Bagsy, what can we say about this racing? This is the definition of hammer and tongs.
Certainly is. There's been no let up for the last 3 laps. You can only imagine what it's like in the cockpits of these cars. Need some immense concentration. We've only seen really one mistake, and that was Corey going across the chicane last lap. Well, remains Foley makes mistake number 2 in this battle so far. He's going to lose all those places, but this is good news for Corey Ott, because he now is able to let Devonish through again without hopefully having any issues this time. We'll see if he does back off and do that, or if he's just going to accept a potential penalty later on, because he really didn't lose a position by cutting that chicane, so you'd think he has to give that place back. Yeah,
you think you're probably right there. Cutting the chicane definitely has given him an advantage that he shouldn't necessarily have right now, but for the moment this battle over 5th place has actually settled down, and it's just Wedding and Foley battling over 7th and 8th at the moment. So in the background, Brock Harvey's gone very, very wide as he managed to keep it out of the wall. It looks like there might be no damage on that car, but geez, that
just managed to. It was very close.
Geez, that was a hair-raising moment if I ever seen one. Let's have a look at this. Down, coming through Ascari, he was all out of shape. How did he do this? So, looks all right through Ascari, but just, yeah, way too much speed, way too much curbing. Oh, just managed to keep it out of the wall. He was about a foot away from clouding that tyre barrier there, so a very, very lucky boy.
If that tyre barrier could talk, it would just be screaming because Brock Harvey was heading straight towards it.
And he's missed the first chicane as well, Brock Harvey, so he's had to take the evasive action through the shortcut and will come out behind Greg Turra. So he didn't gain anything, but he didn't lose anything either. And,
here we go. Coriot is letting Devonish through, I believe, here.
Here we go.
He's hit the brakes a lot earlier than he would have normally.
Yeah, there you go. So he has redressed that position, albeit a couple of laps too late.
Oh, Foley's pit as well from this.
All right, so Foley and all of that has decided enough's enough, and rather get out and run in some clean air. Probably not a bad thing, I would suggest, Bagsy, just to get a pit stop out of the way. We saw an early pit stop from, I believe it was Osrob last round, and it didn't quite pan out. Now, Matt Williams tells me these cars, Coriot's in the grass again. He gets back on track, please, Corey. We don't want to have an accident or an aeroplane crash this early in the race. Just getting back to what Matt Williams was telling me before tonight's race, all the cars have got the same tank. So they've got a 120-litre tank, but it's the burn rates that differ. So depending on if you can make a tank last a lap longer than your rival, you might be in with a shot here. But to come in this early, I dare say he may have to stop at least one more time compared to the rest of the field. He's probably going to stop twice. So that's what happened to Osrob. He ended up having a splash and dash toward the end. But if it comes down to a safety car, then Foley might be in the box seat here. And so too with Brendan Ross. Brendan Ross really badly needs a safety car.
I think I just saw Greg Turra vanish from the screens, and Noah Turra has as well. So I think a connection gremlin has got those two yet again, which is very unfortunate. It
looks like it has, unfortunately. So they are off the timing screens. Meanwhile, we'll just pick up our race leader here. So Greg Nangle, the reigning endurance champion from last season, having secured the title in that thriller in Albert
Greg
Park.
and Noah Turra are back, sorry.
Alright, they're back on track. So Greg Nangle out in front. He's got a comfortable margin, 6.4 seconds over Jamie Snow. And just been going about his business rather nicely. Snow and Nangle quite well matched through some of the sectors, although on that lap, this particular lap, Snow is 7/10 down on Nangle, but they were lapping relatively consistently, both in everyone in the top half of the field running in the 48s at the moment. But with all the fighting and squabbling going on down the field, it's allowed Nangle to kick away, and he's already Ben Rhodes or Rhodey already a lap down. Brock Harvey and Brent Foley not too far away, about 2/3 of a lap, about a third of a lap away from being a lap down if anything was to happen. But we're 20 minutes in nearly into this race, Bagsy, and finally a little bit of respite, albeit for a very short period of time.
Yeah, pit stops are starting to break up some cars here. We've had Harvey and Foley come in from top 10 runners. It's going to be interesting as Coriot runs rather wide behind Devonish. It's going to be interesting to see how fuel burn is in this track, as you mentioned before, because there's so much full throttle here as Devonish sets the fastest lap of the race and shows us why he almost got pole. There's so much full throttle, we might not see people be able to make the half an hour stint length required to be able to make a two-stopper work. So question is, do you try and make a three-stopper work, or do you try and save fuel? Can you save enough fuel? You'd have to do a lot of lifting and coasting though.
That's right. Given the fighting and squabbling that was going on earlier in the race too, one thing that a few people should have probably just exercised a bit of a cool head and thought, you know what, I'll sit behind somebody and let them do the work and then extend my fuel by a lap or two, and then try an overcut rather than an undercut and go from there. The smart guys potentially could have made that happen, and then also then had a shorter fill for their second and final stop, should that be what pans out. As Coriot very, very wide off of Lesmo number 2, and he is into the wall. He's lost a bonnet, And we saw that happening in the background just as we were watching Will Devonish, and major damage on that Audi. Let's have a look on the replay. Looks like he had a bit of it was a touch wide through Lesmo 1, Lesmo 2. Took the same road curve, but just way too much speed, and then the gravel trap just bounced him straight into the wall. Good reaction by Lewis Wedding there as well to get through unscathed as well. But that Audi is very much looking worse for wear at the moment. I'm not sure if he'll continue.
Yeah, he's got some damage as well. Into Ascari, he was pulling very, very hard. So it'll be interesting to see. He's almost certainly going to come into the pits here to repair it. It's going to be a long repair job, and it will stuff up any pit strategy he might have had as well.
Keeps going.
Not going in there. We'll see how he goes into the first chicane here. I'm not sure. His marvellous braking performance has been affected a large amount.
Certainly has. So he was right in the thick of that battle, Coriot. Still 8th, still in point scoring position. Maybe the damage not too bad then. We'll just have to watch his lap times for a couple of laps to see how he goes. And meanwhile, we look through the field, and Wedding and Turra, the only guys that are relatively close on track, and then Bolger and Ross. Brendan Ross, obviously, as we said before, recovering from that stop-go penalty, which caused when Will Devonish backed the whole entire outside lineup. And very, very strange circumstances. Be a hot topic of discussion after the race as to what happened.
Something to consider after the race is that regardless of where Devonish finishes, is a potential post-race penalty for causing all that issue. I mean, he caused many people to lose positions and Brendan Ross to get a unnecessary stop-go penalty. So he's slightly ruined several people's races and absolutely destroyed Ross's race.
Well, we actually saw that in the State Series on Saturday as well. We had a safety car come out halfway through the race.
Oh, sorry, Ozrob and Heath Dixon going at it. Heath Dixon's going for the overtake.
Yep, here they are. Dixon down the outside and gets the job done through Parabolica, but that puts him on the marbles and on a really bad line and lets Ozrob all the way back through, and now Will Devonish closing in on this battle as well. Just resuming my point from before, we did have an issue in the State Series on Saturday where a safety car came out halfway through the improved production race, and the field was actually split up. So most of the field was behind the safety car, but about a half a dozen cars were being held up by another car down the back straight who hadn't actually closed up to the back of the pack. And therefore, when the race resumed, there was 2 distinct groups, and it was looked upon very sternly by the stewards on the day, but it actually turned out that the driver that was causing discretion actually had some technical dramas, but the people behind him couldn't pass. But speaking of passing, Heath Dixon looking for a way back past Ozrob, and he'd probably want to do it rather quickly because Will Devonish has joined this battle and very quickly could nab the pair of them.
Yeah, potentially coming up to some pit stops soon as well. We've got 5 minutes left until we are at the hour to go mark, half hour in, so that will be the perfect time to make a 2-stop strategy work. So really, the best way to do this race is to split it up into 3 equal portions, 2 stops, and we'll see. Obviously, some people, Harvey and Foley, have gone for differing strategies as Heath goes around the outside into Ascari, but he's not going to get it done there. We'll see what we expect to be the regular strategy come into play.
Certainly, well, we looked at Lewis Wedding, pretty much broke it up into the race up into 3 chunks last week, or the last round, sorry, pitting just after the half-hour mark and with about 22 minutes to go, I think it was, if memory serves me correctly, and he made that strategy work really, really well. Word on the ground from Matt Williams. His game froze and crashed, so hence only a couple of laps in the lead. Here comes Ozrob and Dixon and Devonish with him. So this is slightly earlier than we expected. So just before the half-hour mark, and that will put Turra and Wedding through on these guys. So the question's going to be, how can they make this all work? Devonish is about halfway down the lane. Ozrob and Dixon are not too far ahead of each other. Dixon's actually got one of the first bays. And you overshot the pit box? Is Dixon? Yes, he has.
He has.
So, whoa, and
he's run into
Ozrob as well. So this is not good for Heath Dixon. So maybe that injury is causing some dramas for him. So we'll pick up the action. So Steve Bolger and Brendan Ross. So Brendan Ross will have to come in again in a couple of laps' time, and that'll put him right toward the back end of the field, but he's wasted no time. Brendan Ross been going very, very nicely. He's been doing his best lap is a 48.0, and if we take a look at some of the lap times that he's been doing over the course of the last few laps, he's been consistently in the 48s, but not exactly consistent with the lap time. So been a bit all over the shop, but he's still been getting it there.
Osrob has given Heath Dixon a bit of a swipe on the way out, clearly unhappy with Heath reversing directly into the back of him. Just to note, Devonish and Heath did not take tyres, so they obviously think the wear is not too bad around here, that they can only make one tyre stop, and because of that, there is a large gap. Devonish is going through chicane 2 now as Osrob is just entering Curve Grande, and they came in nose to tail, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
They certainly did. Meanwhile, let's have a look out in front and see what's going on. It's still Nangle that leads from Jamie Snow. He's increased that advantage, Greg Nangle. It's out to 8.6 seconds. In turn, Jamie Snow has got nearly 12 seconds on Lewis Wedding, who coming out of Parabolica now. In comes Katara, so strategy starting to play out. So some drivers able to make this last more than a half an hour on a tank. So this is going to be in their favour at this rate if they can get the job done.
Well, yeah, Tara's coming in just probably a lap earlier than what you'd expect, maybe 2 laps, because this is 90 minutes plus 1 lap, so you've got to be very, very careful with what you do in terms of filling up. If you fill up at half an hour to go, there's a good chance you might not make it to the end if you've been doing half-hour stints, because the race could go for 91.5 minutes, potentially.
Potentially right there, and on top of that, we know that there are some rather good strategy maestros in the field, and this man on screen is one of them, Lewis Wedding. He always seems to get his strategy absolutely spot on and puts himself right in the prime positions towards the back end of the race, and he's driving very, very nicely now ever since that early scuffle between himself, Ott, Devonish and Foley has since stopped, so the race has settled down.
Nangle might be coming this time round. Also, something that I hadn't considered was that you are in the pits for almost a minute when you're filling up, so that is time where you're obviously not lapping. So actually, Tara might be in a very good spot for it, but I think Nangle's going to be in the better spot, assuming he pits now.
Yeah, well, it looks like he is going to come in, and the other team are in the lane for the FCR Motorsport team, Scrouse SLS, and in he comes. So the only benefit, I guess, two bags is you might be stationary for a little while, but it is a very short pit lane here in terms of a transit time. It's less than about 15 seconds from end to end, so you're not exactly...
Yeah, the only problem is average speed here is so high that you're losing out on a chunk of time in comparison to most circuits.
That's right, that's the other end of the equation. So Jamie Snow gets a turn with some laps in the lead here for FCR Motorsport, and it looks like they might be out in the lane in the next particular lap. So as you can see,
come in as well.
Yeah, as you can see, when you see the little spanner in the cog above the driver's position there, so the number 1 next to Jamie Snow, just above, that is the signal that the drivers are potentially looking to make a pit stop on this particular lap or on a future lap. So Jamie Snow just coming up to put Noah Tara a lap down. Oh, that's a... Jamie Snow wouldn't have been expecting that, but Tara's done the right thing. He knew that he needed to get off the racing line, but Snow was looking for the inside line for between turns 5 and 6, and Tara swiped very quickly to the inside there. So just something to be, I guess, a little bit cautious of.
Devonish has come out ahead of Greg Nangle.
He has. What on earth's happened there? So
that's that not changing tyres right there. Nangle did change tyres. Devonish did not.
And that's a decent gap too. Look at that. So visually, I mean, it says half a second there, but it's not half a second. It's more like about 4 or 5 seconds. Meanwhile, oh, Noah Tara skates it across the exit of the Ascari chicane. Jamie Snow leads Lewis Wedding by nearly 14 seconds. Coming down to Parabolica, and we expect him in this lap. So all the field starting to pit, and we're about halfway through the pit cycle. And indeed, Jamie Snow is in. So they look now to Lewis Wedding. Looks like they might be doing something similar for McLaren. So they're pitting after the half-hour mark. So they've been able to make this last. So this puts them in the box seat strategy-wise, depending on how we go for safety cars and the remaining fuel strategy. So
Well, it also means that their last stop is going to be shorter as well.
That's right. Steve Bolger coming in on this lap as well. So he's had a good run, very clean run, up 8 positions, but obviously that's to do with a lot of the other drivers ahead having stopped already.
Snow taking tyres, Wedding not taking tyres.
All right, well, here's the man.
Bolger also not taking tyres.
Well, here's the man they need to watch out for. Will Devonish has already stopped, coming out of Parabolica now, and down the front straightaway in this Lamborghini. Now, let's see what his first opening lap time is since he's stopped. He's had an outlap already, and it's a 48.6 that time around, and he scoots into the lead quite comfortably, but I believe, as you said, Bagsy, already, he's not taking any tyres.
Yeah, so some people who we weren't expecting to get up so far, well, namely Devonish, it's amazing how he's gained so much time, because no one's who was close to Nangle is really remained close. Jamie Snow took tyres as well, so he's still he's still 11 seconds behind Nangle. He's right in the midst with Turra. Wedding and Osrob have come out together. Heath Dixon's lost a few places in the pit stops. Brock Harvey's gained a decent amount. Bolger's gained a decent amount too.
And Foley's actually gained a decent amount too. He's up to 3rd, and he stopped all the way back on lap 9. So that's a net gain for Brenton Foley as well. But then Will Devonish purely has played this as a strategy play now, because he had no choice. He was that far down the field after what happened at the beginning of the race. He's pulled the card of, I don't need to take tyres, I think I can hold on. And we'll have to see how long he can stretch these, if he can get them to the hour mark and then come in for another stop. But I got a funny feeling those tyres will be hurting toward the end here, and he's purely playing a very early track position game here. So remains to be seen. Looks like Nangle might be getting ready to hunt him down. They were pretty evenly matched through Sector 1. I think it just went to Devonish by a 1/10 of a second, and then in the second sector it was a 1/10 back the other way to Nangle. So the moment they're just pegging each other at this 4.4 second gap, as we wait to see them come to the line. Let's see what they look like this time around. So Devonish's lap on worn rubber, on 30-minute-old rubber, is a 48.5. Nangle will come down to the line, and he does a 48.5 as well. So right now they're relatively close on pegging their lap times, and Foley does a 49.1. So Foley's had a bit of a scruffy lap there in the Bentley.
Yeah, Foley's also not really in contention here because of that early pit stop. He pit on lap 9, so Devonish pit on 14, so 5 laps before Devonish and 7 laps before Nangle. So really, I don't think he's going to be able to fuel save that much, because obviously he needs at least 1 more pit stop, but probably 2, probably a splash and dash near the end, unless he can save 3 laps of fuel on each stint essentially, which means he'd need to go. Well, we saw Snow, Bolger and Wedding do 17 laps, so to equal Devonish's 14, maybe he can manage that if he can go 17 laps on each stint, which means really the earliest we can expect him to come in will be lap 26.
Well, we'll wait for those pit stops to shake out when it gets to around that time, but as you can see from your screen on the left there, Greg Nangle took 2.5 tenths out of Will Devonish's lead that time around. On this particular lap, and just about matched him in Sector 2 there, so already starting to make a few little inroads. And as you said, Nangle with the fresher rubber, so once he gets it up to temperature and comfortable with the car, Devonish very, very wide actually, not at the bit of line, and he's kicked up a bit of grass too on the exit of Parabolica, so that'll compromise him a little bit down this straight, probably not too much. But taking the non-preferred line, Devonish at 48.4, Nangle with a 48.1. So he's found 3/10 that lap, and very, very slowly just going to start to reel in that Lamborghini with AMG power on board that SLS.
Just having a look back down the field, Osrob is applying the blowtorch to the back of Lewis Wedding.
Yeah, that's getting very
took
close.
tyres, Wedding did not. So this is a battle of tyres versus no tyres. We'll see which is best.
And
Ooh,
Ozrob
Ozrob
he's just
doesn't
pushing
give the
it.
tyres any help there.
No, just pushing it and overdriving the car just a little too much there, and that affords Lewis Wedding a little bit of breathing space that he would very much enjoy. Meanwhile, we
We've
look
got
at
a few battles in a row that are tyres versus no tyres. We've got Wedding and Ozrob, no tyres versus tyres. We've got Heath Dixon, no tyres versus Brock Harvey tyres. We've got Steve Bolger, no tyres, Corey Ott tyres.
And then you got up front, you've got Devonish no tyres and Nangle with tyres, and Nangle's slowly starting to hunt down the big Lamborghini at the moment. I was actually just about to mention Heath Dixon. You did mention that he didn't take tyres, but he also had that bit of an indiscretion in the pit lane where he backed into Ozrob, having missed his pit bay. They are sequential pit bays. He's got the very first one, Heath Dixon, and Ozrob was there first, and he had to drive around him, and he didn't get it stopped in time. So that's unfortunately put him on the back foot.
That might be the reason Heath Dixon's fallen down so far, because when he reversed into Ozrob, it would have done a small amount of damage, and then the car would have been immediately put up, and the damage, he would have had a chance to clear it from the menu. There's a menu you go into as you're entering the pits that you can choose whether or not to repair damage and things like that, but if the damage happens a millisecond before you actually start the pit stop, you don't have time to get rid of it. So I think that's why he's lost so many positions.
That's right, and the other person that's obviously been the big loser out of the whole sequence of stops is Brennan Ross. So Brennan Ross finally came in for his first stop, having already been in the lane to serve a stop-go penalty on lap 3, puts him all the way back down into 12th, and having a very lonely race back there at the minute. We did say that he very badly needs a safety car to get himself back into contention here, as Ozrob and Lewis Wedding have exchanged, there was a little exchange of position there, but Wedding has held on for the moment. Down back behind there.
Got much better grip and drive though.
Corey Ott still running around with a damaged front end on that Audi, and getting under pressure from Steve Bolger at the moment, who's following right into wheel tracks here.
He just passed Bolger, so I think he'll start pulling away at the moment.
Bolger staying with him for the moment, but that Corey Ott just managing to break away a couple of car lengths, and yeah, I think that battle's probably, you're right, Bagsy, probably very well sorted and done there. Corey Ott took a lot of curb on the way into the chicane, and that's given him another bit more of a break for it, so he's doing quite well there. Let's pick up our race leader and see what's happening here. So Will Devonish has managed to get the gap back out to 4.6 seconds over Greg Nangle. Foley is starting to close in on Nangle a little bit, so he's brought the gap down from about 9.1 to 8.6 seconds to the race leader, which means that Nangle going backwards of Devonish means that he's falling into the clutches of Foley. There he is, just on the back of shot. So they're all on the same bit of front straightaway at the moment.
Devonish and Nangle have set basically sector for sector almost identical times. 37.608 to a 37.601, 37.96 to a 37.93, a 32.55 to 32.41. So the tiniest of an advantage to Nangle that lap, but functionally an identical lap time.
Well, when you look at that as almost an identical lap time to each other, and tyres versus no tyres, granted we know that Will has got a massive amount of talent, and you can see by where he qualified that he's right up there. Safety car, here we go. So something has happened. The pits are closed, and for the first time,
Brody's had a spin.
And for the first time this season, we have a safety car. Yeah, it looks like it might have been Rody. Let's see if we can pick up what happened here on our replay. So it's into a scary by the look of it, and yeah, so he's gone a bit deep. And yeah, then got on the marbles, and yeah, had a massive tank slapper on, and yep, that will be the cause of the safety car. He was parked there just as Noah Tara came along, so actually got a nice dint in that
a lot of people
side
still
door.
looking like they're racing a fair bit, to be honest. They're quite race looking, but yeah, safety car means pit lane is closed, but that's not really an issue because most people have taken their pit stops. What this is excellent for is for Brenton Foley in third. He is going to be very happy at this. Brendan Ross will be as well after his unfortunate penalty at the start, but Foley's going to be the biggest benefactor here because he really has a lot of fuel saving to make, and especially this track, you can save so much fuel when you're behind safety car and off the throttle.
Absolutely.
It's an unbelievable amount. So he's essentially playing himself into only needing one pit stop. So now, instead of his position being dependent on fuel saving and potentially doing a splash and dash, It's now entirely just based on track position. So he's essentially third now, not third with an asterisk.
Absolutely. Well, you're right. It's a good sign for Brenton Foley, but it's also brilliant for Brennan Ross. But the only downside is these guys are going to have to catch the safety car really, really quickly. So the safety car is going through Curva Grande right now. When we take a look back through the field and we see where the likes of Brennan Ross are, he's halfway, or actually just coming down to Parabolica now. So he's got to stay on it. He really needs to get onto the back of this train as quickly as possible, because if anybody tries to pull a strategy card here, he needs to be there to capitalise on it and go with, and either decide to go with them or to stay out. It just depends on what strategy they want to call. Everybody's going to have to stop at least one more time. If you stop under safety car, you're going to have to stop again. So probably not a wise idea.
If you wait as long as possible towards the end of this safety car and then pit the lap before it comes in, and then bank on another safety car, unless the people ahead get a long way ahead of you, you're going to have track position and potentially fuel to the end at this point. Because we don't know how many laps we're going to do under safety car and things like that, it could be that pitting now is potentially enough to get you to the end of the race.
So this safety car is almost at half distance here, Bagsy, so it came out with about 48.5 minutes on the clock, and the half distance is obviously 45 minutes, so it's an interesting time to set this up. We banked on our green flag laps getting us to about 52 laps should we have gone green flag all the way. So we're now looking at probably being a sub 50 lap count, given we're so close to halfway, so probably around the 46 to 48 laps based on our original predictions earlier in the night, which was based around a green flag situation.
What's going to be interesting here is those who didn't take tyres are now very disadvantaged, because all their time they saved, 10 seconds or more, is now gone. It's out the window. So that means that Lewis Wedding, Greg Turra, not so much Brenton Foley, he took tyres. Will Devenish, though, is the biggest loser from this.
Well, the good news for Brennan Ross is he's managed to catch up to the back of the field. Now what happens in the strategy? Here we go.
Nangle pits.
Devenish
Foley
in.
pits.
Nangle in. Foley in. Turra in. Osrob in. Who stays out? Look who stays out. Snow stays out. Wedding stays out. Dixon stays out. And the rest of the field comes in. So it was only open. The field was only open to lead lap cars, the pits, this time around. So the likes of Rhodey are unable to pit this time.
It's very crowded here, and remember that some people share boom, so this could be very interesting.
Yeah, it certainly is. And having a look here, Osrob tried to run into to get into his bay there, and you can see here. Look at this. Foley can't get into a boom. Foley cannot get into a boom here, so something.
Foley, Foley.
And then you look back toward the Lamborghinis. You've got. And out comes Greg Nangle. So Nangle's clear, but then you've got the likes of Steve Bolger and Willie is sharing a boom as well. Turra in, Noah Turra that is. Harvey looks all right. Ott's in there. So Brennan Ross is gone. Corey Ott runs into the back of Greg Turra there. Devenish is gone and gets going. Foley, where's he going to end up in all of this?
Just getting in now.
So Foley's going to be right at the back of this train. So Osrob is out. So you're right, Bagsy. It turned out to be a right royal mess, and the big loser out of those stops is going to be Brenton Foley. He's going to drop all the way to the back of the lead lap cars, pretty much. But the saving grace for him is we're currently under safety cars, so he's still he's off strategy to everybody else, but he's still on an even par. Everybody was still going to have to stop one more time, regardless.
Yeah, they certainly are. I'm furiously recalculating and writing down who's pit when. It'll be interesting to see if any of the front people who didn't pit this lap are just deciding to defer the pit stop a lap to avoid that giant ruckus. It might cost them a little bit of track position, but you're guaranteed to get your stop done unmolested.
Well, they are Jamie Snow, Lewis Wedding, and Heath Dixon are the men who decided not to pit. Behind them is Rhodey, so he's the cause of that yellow flag. So he'll be allowed to stop this time around, as he wasn't one of the lead lap cars. Now, I'm not 100% sure what the rules are that govern the safety car in this particular instance, but when we had the race, the 3-hour race at Bathurst, there was a lucky dog that was issued when the safety car was out, and that means you get a lap
Yeah,
back.
so Rhodey did get the lucky dog,
So Rhodey has been given the lucky dog, so he has gone...
but he's still coming.
Actually, no, he's still classed as being a lap down to some of the field and 2 laps down to some other drivers according to the timing screen. But we'll see if Rhodey decides to come in this lap or if he decides to stay out. We're just watching him at the minute. He's behind
He might be pitting.
the 3 that did not stop.
Oh no, he's
So,
not. Anyway, Heath Dixon has pit now, so he's taken the smart idea, and he has pit with a pit lane that is entirely empty.
Yeah, not a bad idea that, as you called it earlier. So that means it puts Snow and Wedding at the head of this field. They've effectively made their bed now, so they.
Well, I think they've picked the right strategy, because unless the safety car goes on for a lot longer, I don't think you're going to be able to fuel save enough to the end. You're going to be relying on another safety car. So,
Oh, here we go. Something, Brock Harvey. What's fill us in, mate? What do you know?
Tara just retired.
Okay, so there goes Greg Tara. So he is out of this race. Let's see if we can very quickly pick up what happened to G-Tuz. And
so we
no,
lost Greg Tara, and Noah Tara had... It looks like there was a connection issue again, but Noah Tara has made it back into the race, whereas Greg Tara hasn't.
Yeah, so Greg Tara, we haven't been able to pick up what happened, unfortunately. As who's that's in the pits there? Is that Foley again? Yes, it is. Foley is actually in the pits, and that's a top off.
He's only done fuel.
Yeah, that's topping off of fuel. So I'm giving you at the back of the field. Probably not a bad idea. Gains one more spot by passing the retired Greg Tara.
The green flag the next time around.
All right. Well, half distance. Let's have a quick check of the order as it stands as they round Lesmo 2. Jamie Snow did not come in under the safety car to stop. Likewise, Lewis Wedding did not stop under the safety car. So what's the strategy going to be for those gentlemen? First of the stoppers under the safety car, Greg Nangle, P3, FCR Motorsport Team Scrouse, has led most of this race up until the safety car.
I think Rhodey is out of position. I think he's meant to be a position ahead, so we might see some penalties getting handed down. We saw Corey Ott flash his lights because he knows he's meant to be behind Greg Nangle. So I think Rhodey is meant to be a position up here, but it's probably too late now.
We'll soon find out. Corey Ott occupies P4 right now. Brennan Ross, P5, so that's worked out in his favour. Big time, that safety car. Puts him right back in the game. P6, Will Devonish. Brock Harvey out of 7. Oz Robbers, 8th. Steve Bolger, 9th. Noah Tara still in. This is 10th. Heath Dixon, 11th. Foley is 12th, and he should catch the back of this train. He's going to catch the back of this train at speed. He just needs to play it safe here because the field ahead of him...
He'll be slowed down by the time they get to it because the safety car's going to be very slow around Parabolica.
Yeah, I reckon he could have coasted a little bit up to the back of the field. Then he probably burned a little bit of fuel by trying to catch them at a bit quick pace, but...
it's better to catch the field than to be left behind, but the safety car really slows... Jamie Snow, really slows the field down. They're just spreading out everywhere.
Well, it's his prerogative to go when they want. He effectively is the safety car. He can go whenever he wants. Wedding, look at him, right underneath the wing, and Snow goes. No, he doesn't go. Waiting.
He's waiting for that line.
Waiting. He's holding speed. Oh, and Wedding's giving him a shove! Wedding's giving him a shove. What on earth was that for? Snow is... I don't know. And there's more push and shove. Brock Harvey's into people here. It's a massive calamity going on. My, oh my, what on earth has happened here? And we've got another safety car, so...
Unsurprising, but what was that?
That was carnage. We're picking up the replay from the point of view of Ozrob here, just to see what happens. So, Wedding gave Snow a shove. Harvey gives, I think that's Rhodey a shove, who gets into Devonish, and then Ozrob takes avoiding action, gets into Noah Tara, and all carnage breaks loose. Let's see, we're going to try and pick up a little bit more of this. Let's see if we can pick it up from, while we're under the safety car, we're going to try and pick this up from, actually, Rhodey's point of view is probably the good one, so we're going to use the rewind here, guys, just to see what's going on. Yeah, you can see, here we go, Brock Harvey gets into Rhodey, who then sideswipes Devonish. Devonish gets lucky because the wall was there to keep him pointing straight, And as you can see, Ozrob had virtually nowhere to go, had to take some avoiding action, actually splits the gap, just gets tagged right there by Rhodey, and chaos ensues.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how that is. I mean, I guess it's just the fact that all the cars were so bunched up, but really got the feeling that that started with Wedding, really. I mean, he turfed Jamie Snow something shocking there. I mean, he may be unhappy that Jamie Snow hadn't gone yet, but it's Jamie's prerogative to go whenever he wants to go. But I would say this means that we're going to be close to making 10. Really actually puts Foley into the best position as the person who came in on that, along with Heath Dixon, who came in on that very last lap of the previous safety car. So they're almost certainly all the way through the end.
Well, very intense discussions are going to be had at the end of this race regarding that restart. You can see the big dent right there in dead smack in the middle of that front bumper of the McLaren 650S. But that's very, very un-Lewis Wedding-like to turf somebody like that. I knew he was in the thick of the battle earlier on with Will and with Foley and co over that 5th place. But and he managed to hold his cool there, but back very, very... we don't know the full circumstances behind it, but that's not the kind of Lewis Wedding that we know.
No, definitely not. And I'm wondering if it might have just... there's every chance, and it's probably likely, that it was just an accident and that Wedding hasn't meant to do that, because it's not like him to do something like that. So I think really we can't crucify him just yet. It could be a simple accident.
Yeah, that's why I'm sort of refraining. As I mentioned, it's not we don't exactly know the full story yet. So that one will shake out in about 40 minutes time from now. But what this does mean is the lap count's going to come down significantly. We're now down to 36 minutes, and as we furiously try and work through our calculations to work out how many more laps we've got to go, the strategy will now start to unfold. The likes of Wedding and co are definitely now not going to make it. Fuel saving, and you're right, it puts the likes of Foley and Dixon and anybody behind these guys that are going to come in and potentially, that came in and topped off. It's going to put Wedding and what was Snow now out of place. Snow's going to have to stop anyway. So by the time we get back to green flag racing again, we're probably going to have about 32 minutes on the clock. And just doing the rough math to work out how many more laps that would give us, it'd probably give us about another 17 to 18 laps, which means we'd be set for a lap count around about 45 laps. So well now under the estimate that we had on the board at the beginning of the night. But safety cars breed safety cars, as they say, and Redemption Round has turned into a bit of a ruckus after that last restart.
Indeed it has. I think you want to pit now, as we see a couple of people pit.
Yeah, so
a lot of people pit, more than a couple.
Yes,
so
Devonish,
Wedding, Nangle, Ott, Ross and Boldrew, and also Rhodey have stayed out, so they think they can make it to the end. I believe they are mistaken, as we're going to see another just absolute cluster in the pit lane because people are going to be sharing brooms again. Is Foley going to actually get one to himself this time?
Well,
he is.
Devonish led the train in, and it was and Harvey's out, so they all managed to get themselves sorted out this time. So Harvey out first from Dixon. Devonish is right there at the back. In actual fact, it's that Brennan. Who's that back there? It's Jamie Snow behind Foley. Noah Tara's in as well now. Some of these guys will be getting damage repaired.
Yeah, I think it was more people who took tyres accidentally, and that's cost them a bit of time. That's why Harvey, with the heads-up play, he's managed to only take fuel because, those tyres were used in anger for one lap. Less than that, really, for one accident. Yeah. And they're not really used. So he's gained himself, I think, 5 places there.
He certainly has. And meanwhile, back in the field, it was actually Brenton Foley taking tyres. And Jamie Snow took some tyres, well, probably a bit of damage repair as well, because he's lost position to Will Devonish and all that. Devonish actually led the crew of 6 cars or 7 cars into the lane and was the third last man to exit. So he actually lost out there, so probably a little bit of damage repair again, but he did have some right-hand side damage after being, I wouldn't say punted, but he was given a rather big hip and shoulder into the wall on the front straight, and just as lucky he was pointing the right direction because he was able to continue on. So the upshot of all this other safety car is that Rhodey is probably the innocent victim in all of that. Caused a little bit of
I think he was
carnage.
part of the problem, though, because he didn't accelerate as fast as everyone else. And that's what caused all that lumping about in the middle of the pack.
He still ends up 2 laps down to the race leader. As we tick down here. Now, I believe if we cycle through the cameras, yeah, so the pits will be open to Rhodey this time around should he want to come in and top off.
He probably should, because that'll get him to the end of the race.
It should get him to the end of the race, given we're approaching the half-hour mark to go now. And in actual fact, it'd probably be beneficial for the field. It'll put him at the toward the back of the pack and out of harm's way for this next restart. And no, he's continuing on.
No,
so
he hasn't.
Foley's coming again. Am I almost deceiving you? Is Brenton Foley coming again? No, he has come in again.
Yeah, he is. I think Bulge has come in as well. I think he's concerned about fuel to the end.
Yes.
I mean, we're expecting about. Oh, yeah. It's hard to say what we're gonna, because we know that they can do. It was a minute 50 when they're at full, or just under a minute 50 when they're at full speed. So that's just over 15 laps.
Steve
as
Bolger
Bolger gets a penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So Foley might have gained the ascendancy here if fuel burn is higher than we think. I think Heath Dixon's gone off into the gravel.
Yeah, he has there. And
Rhodey stopped. So has Rhodey and Heath Dixon come together potentially?
Well, we're going to take a look at that because that's a rather interesting thing to happen under safety car. So Dixon, was he minding his own business? No, there was a bit of an issue ahead. So it looks like it might have been one of the FCR cars checked up. Brock Harvey checked up again. Heath checked up, and then he got run into by Rhodey. So certainly wasn't his own doing. So let's go back and see if we can pick up which car it was. That was the cause of the checking up to begin with. Just rewinding our replay here. So Harvey checked up because of Brendan Ross. So Brendan Ross actually went wide off the curb and was just coming back on there. Harvey checks up, Dixon checks up, and Rhodey runs into the back of him.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
No,
certainly.
Damage is minor. Well, the Apex rear wing Bentley Continental at the head of the field, which is substituting for the AMS Oz safety car because of an SRS problem, which will be corrected after the Monza round, heads the field. And Lewis Wedding is the only man who is yet to come in for his second stop. Now, he's going to have to stop at some point. The question is going to be when. He's going to need another safety car to make this work for him, Lewis Wedding, because otherwise he's going to be in trouble.
We're not sure, but we think.
We think. You're absolutely
He's saving a lot of fuel at the moment.
Yeah, he's going very, very slowly at the moment, and he will become the safety car this time around. Now, he's coming in.
Hitting.
He's coming in. All right, so that then means that the safety car is going for another lap. Brendan Ross coming in again as well, actually. So this then cycles.
This is all the people who have realised that they're not going to make it to the end coming in.
All right, so Greg Nangle now heads the field from Corey Ott. Brock Harvey moves up into third place in all of that little interesting dilemma. Heath Dixon remains fourth, Osrob fifth, Brenton Foley sixth, and Lewis Wedding seventh, although that honour now goes to Steve Bolger, who just tours the pit lane. Let's see who comes out of the
I think
pits
Bolger
next.
was trying to do his drive through there, not realising you can't serve it.
Yeah, you'll need to serve that under green flag, so you're probably right there, Bagsy, doing the pit lane drive-through. Now here comes Jamie Snow down the lane, so I believe Snow will get past Wedding, and indeed he does. Brendan Ross gets out ahead of Wedding as well. Wedding's going to comes out 10th in all of that, and Will Devonish in 11th. Noah Turra is now DNF'd from this race, so that's both the Turras out. And Rhodey being a lap down will move up to, or to these guys anyway, will move up to P12 in a lap time.
Unfortunately, what we've got is, as Rhodey has gone off the track there, which is not ideal for him, unfortunately what we've got is Rhodey's going to be in the middle of the pack yet again for the next restart.
Yeah,
He doesn't seem like he's got, because I think he's meant to be following the Foley, not Bolger, so he's fallen back because of that off, so we'll see if the game tells him to stay behind Foley or Bolger, but yeah, he's meant to be behind Foley at the moment, I believe, so we'll see if he manages to sort that one out, because that was part of the problem with the last Carnage-ridden restart, was some people weren't following the right cars, I believe.
Well, we suspect we're going to get a restart this time around.
I haven't seen a message for it yet, so we might be having one more lap on the safety car.
Alright, so the more we have a safety car, the more fuel saving these guys can do, and on top of that, it means that we are not going to have a fuel limited race. We're going to have a sprint finish toward the end by the look of it. We've only got 28 laps in the books.
After all this, Greg Nangle's at the front.
He's somehow found his way back to the front. So with 27 minutes on the clock, let's assume that we do another... What lap times are we doing? We're doing lap times in the 256s. So we've got to take another 3 minutes off the clock here. So let's get ourselves down to about 24 minutes remaining. And let's see what sort of lap count we would probably have remaining. We'd be winding up with about another 13 to 14 lap sprint finish.
And everyone will be good as Ott comes in. So Ott's the only holdout left, so it's unfortunate for him. He's going to have to do a lot of passing.
Well, Rhodey's the only other one that surely can't make it to the flag. So, you know, you would have thought he would have actually gone and stopped by now, but he's actually dropping behind.
We do have the green flag the next time around.
Okay, so...
Really, it's amazing, because Greg Nangle's come out perfectly in all this. He pit at the exact right time. Everyone in front of him just pulled out of his way into the pits because they didn't do their fuel right. So this really is Nangle's race to just run away with at this point. He's pretty set here, because really his closest rival was probably Devonish, and he is a long way back. He's in 10th.
Yeah, Nangle's got quite a buffer as well. We don't expect Brock Harvey to throw up too great a challenge to the Mercedes. The AMG power will more than likely kick away from the Ferrari driver. But that being said, Brock can probably hold his own, and if he can hold off Heath Dixon for a couple of early laps, he might just be in with a shot of getting an outright podium, which would be great. Oh, as the safety car gets well out of shape on the first curb of the Variante della Roggia.
It's just showing off what Heath might be doing next lap around.
Well, the only thing I will say about Heath Dixon in this particular occasion, Bagsy, is we know that he tends to underfuel. So for his sake...
This is the perfect race for this.
It's the perfect race for not having to worry about fuel. So I think he's quite comfortably going to make it to the end, unlike the previous race. And you'll probably watch this back and think, you pricks. But anyway, it's the truth, and you know it, mate.
Well, the only thing that Nangle doesn't have going for him is his tyres are a bit more used than the people around him. Not by much, though. So I think, really, it's all Nangle's race to lose.
Well, we come down to the Ascari chicane for what we hope is the last lap under safety car. 30 seconds shy of 24 minutes remaining. We're going to get, at this stage, we expect another 13 to 14 laps. So, get yourself sat up nice and comfortable in your favourite chair, ladies and gentlemen. Pull the belts down. We're about to have a 24-minute sprint finish end to this race, provided we can stay out of trouble. All right.
Provided we can stay out of trouble. that's the big if, the big asterisk.
The big asterisk against it, absolutely. Safety car will be in this lap. Pulls off to the inside. Nangle in the SLS has control of the field. Nangle from Harvey from Dixon. Osrob, Foley, Bolger, Ross, Snow, Wedding and Devonish, your top 10. Ott, the last man on the lead lap. Rody's 2 laps down. He's at the back of the field by the look of things, thank goodness. Nangle has control of this field until the control line, and then we will be back underway again with 23 minutes and change on the clock. Here we go. Nangle clear. Harvey second. Dixon under threat early from Osrob. He managed to get a jump. Foley's going to try and go with them. He's got to hold off the fast Lamborghini of Steve Bolger though. And it looks like it's all status quo. Who's that going up the inside? Is that Snow or is that Brendan Ross? Brendan Ross trying his hand to get up the inside there. Bit of hip and shoulder from the Lamborghini as well of Steve Bolger. But Brendan Ross making a move rather early, and he's certainly come back, and those safety cars have worked in his favour. Meanwhile, the top 5 streak away. There's some gaps there, but Foley putting the pressure on Osrob here. Osrob will go to the defensive to the inside, but Foley's got him and got him comfortably down to the second chicane. And then those Mercedes cars of Brendan Ross and Jamie Snow have rounded up the Lamborghini of Steve Bolger rather quickly. Lewis Wedding now down the inside of Steve Bolger and in time to take on a Lesmo 1. Corey Ott down the inside of Will Devonish. But Corey and Steve Bolger has got that serve, that drive-through in the next couple of laps, so he'll drop out of this battle. But not a bad restart for everybody involved in this race. All clean, a little bit of hip and shouldering, but it's all settled down now.
Yeah, well, you can't do much damage from hip and shoulder that hasn't already been done.
Well, here comes Brendan Ross. Sorry, Bagsy. Here comes Brendan Ross. Had a bit of a look on the inside there of Osrob, just sizing him up.
Wedding's gone way across the grass and Ascari.
He has. He's had to back right out of that Lewis Wedding.
Oh, hanging it out as well. I think Wedding might have to give up a spot there.
Well, let's see if we can grab what happened to Lewis Wedding. We'll bring it forward a little bit just so we can see what happened and quickly cut back to the battle. Yeah, so he was directly ahead of Steve Bolger, and actually comes out ahead of Steve Bolger, Lewis Wedding. So he will have to surrender, even though Bolger's got a drive-through to serve. Technically, he would still have to surrender.
Drive-through, so can't redress that position now.
Nope. So that's effectively over and done with. Brendan Ross now on the inside of Osrob.
Harvey's into the back of Nangle.
Oh, there's all sorts of push and shove going on. Dixon's involved in this. Who's that out the front? Is that and Greg Nangle's not too far ahead either. So
yeah,
Dixon round
they were very close throughout the whole lap. So
Dixon round the outside of Brock Harvey here too. Bentley Train pulling to the outside. Brendan Foley's got nowhere to go, but he's going to try and stay with Heath Dixon. Dixon on the inside. Little bit of hip and shoulder for Brock Harvey. He'll try and stay there, but the Bentleys have rounded him up, and now they can hunt down the Merc. Can they work together as a team? Looking back through the field. It's just like that. Harvey's
gone from fighting for the lead to off the podium. He's got in a bit too hot into the first corner, gave Nangle a nudge, and compromised himself enough he lost the position to both those Bentleys there, and he's looking like he might lose one to Ross as well, into Ascari.
Yeah, there's a very fast 444 Mercedes FCR Motorsport coming now. Brendan Ross down to the inside of looking down the inside of turn number 8. The first a bit of Ascari, but he thinks better of it and thinks, nope, still got some time on the clock here, just got to be sensible about this and use my pace down the straight to breeze past the little Ferrari. Meanwhile, Osrob's gone all the way back to 8th, so that was a terrible lap for Osrob after being up toward I think it was up in 5th place at the restart there. Here goes Foley, looking on the inside of Heath Dixon. Dixon gives him the space. These two guys need to work together then to make sure they can pass the Mercedes ahead of Nangle and get up there. But Foley thinks, you know what, I prefer to be in the lead. Now here goes Brendan Ross on the inside of Brock Harvey. Looks like he's got some overlap as well in the background there. Meanwhile, the Bentleys are motoring. And Nangle had a poor lap that time around. Foley had a 48.9 to Nangle's 50.3. And Foley very late under brakes. Oh, that's the second time he's gone very deep there, Brenton Foley. But that time it was completely on his own, and he takes the escape rate. He doesn't gain an advantage, but he certainly loses out to Dixon, but he gives Nangle a hell of a lot of breathing room there. Brock Harvey
twice in 2 laps, absolutely wondering why people are trying to run up the back of him. He actually got hit last lap and almost got hit by Foley this time. Foley doesn't lose a place to Dixon, but you think he'll be okay with that.
Harvey managed to hold off Brendan Ross on that particular lap as well down the front straight, and he's still managing to hold off the very fast Mercedes AMG. Jamie Snow and Lewis Wedding trying to close down this battle and join it for 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th, so that's becoming rather tasty. We look ahead there. Foley's now managed to catch back up to Nangle again. A little bit of grass kicked up by Brendan Ross in his pursuit of Brock Harvey. Right under the rear wing of that Ferrari 458. Nowhere to go. Harvey goes...
Bit of a nudge.
A little bit of a nudge. Harvey takes the preferred line. Ross decides to stay with it, which is probably the sensible thing to do here, because there's really only one line through this Ascari chicane. He just needs to find the right spot to set himself up here, Brendan Ross, and just not overdrive the car. That's what he did in... the Bathurst 3 hour when he was in pursuit of the leading pair of Foley and Zeros. He just tended to overdrive the car at the wrong time. He just needs to pick the right time to go.
Foley's right on Nangle. Less than 2/10 as they come out of Parabolica.
A little bit of a puff of smoke from Dixon just ahead. Let's pick up the battle for the race lead. Foley right under the rear wing of the Mercedes SLS. Down the front straightaway. Here they come. Nangle goes defensive. Foley to the outside. Will he be able to get past? No, the Mercedes is holding its own down the outside, but we know Foley's going to be the last of the late breakers down here. Can he hang it round the outside? No. Nangle hangs it there. Yes, he does hang it down there. But this is going to set up an interesting point for Curva Grande, because the Mercedes is going to have the preferred line.
Foley's trying a bit of side drafting there, but it's not going to work in these cars, unfortunately. He's going to try to get back to the slipstream, but he almost held that through the first chicane. He's right back there, though. Is he going to be able to be a late-breaking fiend into the second chicane? He's not.
No.
But he knows he can get past Nangle here.
Brendan Ross gets the job done on Brock Harvey into the second chicane as well. Great job, Brendan Ross. He'll set off after the leading trio. Now that puts Lewis Wedding onto the back of the Ferrari driver for
Wedding's
5th place.
dispatched Snow as well.
Yeah, Snow's still hanging on to Wedding here and just trying to hope that something might happen. He can pick up the pieces here. Ross
Foley's attached to the rear of Greg Nangle. He's absolutely attached. He's attached tow hooks to the back.
Here he goes to the outside now. He's got overlap. Nangle can't move over, so he's got to take the defensive line, and it's a shallower line. Foley's going to have a better run here through Ascari. Couldn't quite nail the apex from the heli shot on the second part of the Ascari chicane, and that buys Dixon a bit of thing, who took a lot of curb and some to try and latch onto the back of him.
Dixon.
That's certainly going to be a track cut for Heath Dixon. Wedding now gets the inside of Brock Harvey in the background. Let's have a look and see, can he get that done? Yes, he can. He's got the inside line, and that moves Lewis Wedding up to 5th. But Harvey with the elbows out, so too is Lewis Wedding, and Harvey will latch onto the back of Lewis here as well and think, well, 2 can play this game, and then Snow's going to think, well, you know what, 3's a crowd. I'm coming too.
Foley to the inside of Nangle. He doesn't have
As
the
the
speed
safety cars come out.
Safety car.
Oh my goodness gracious me. So a safety car has come out at precisely the wrong time in this battle. It looks like it's spun at Ascari. So 3 safety cars, and the battle will settle down and will rage on.
Looks like Wedding's tapped the back of Brock Harvey there as well. He's flashing his lights in anger too, but I feel that one might be on Wedding.
My oh my. 15 minutes to go. We thought we were going to get a 24-minute sprint finish. This is going to be a real humdinger in the last 10 minutes once this all settles down. So where is the safety car? Is the safety car actually out on the circuit?
No, they'd already gone past the start-finish line. So there will be... Well, we're going to have at least
3 laps under safety car.
Go through, and then another 2 after that at least. So this could be only 1 or 2 laps at the end as a sprint, depending on how long the safety car's out for.
So unfortunately for Rhodey, his rap sheet is growing by the lap with his indiscretions. He's been the cause of just about all the safety cars in this race, all 3 of them. So there'll be a few people that'll be a little bit upset with the battles that were unfolding, and to be killed at such a point in time. Literally, Foley was almost about to get a move done into turn number 1 on Greg Nangle, but that's now been put on ice for the next 5 to 6 minutes or so as we take a breath and contemplate what's about to happen next, Bagsy. You're going to take I'm going to do yourself a favour. You're going to take over this. I'm going to go and get myself a drink because my throat is killing me after all that battle for that last 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Well, we know that everyone is safe on fuel. That's 100% certain now, no matter what you're going to do. Tyres, the advantage is still for Foley. He's used about, 10% less tyres, really. And we've seen that he has that little bit of pace, but when he pulls out of the slipstream, he just can't quite get it. So it could be down to an opportunistic move on the restart. We're just waiting to see, waiting for the safety car to appear. I believe it might be. Just said, yeah, it's already a fair way down. It's already past the first chicane, so they'll be catching up to that very soon. And next time round, the pits will be open for lead lap cars, assuming they want to, which they almost certainly won't. It would be strategic suicide to do that. And the lap after that, it'll be open to the only lap down car, which is Roadie. And then hopefully the lap after that will go racing. But if not, we might have another lap under safety car before actually getting going, which would give us only about 3 minutes left, or 2 to 3 laps.
Yeah, this is really going to be an interesting finish to this race. I mean, the clock's counting down. We had no safety cars in race number 1, and 3 safety cars in a 90-minute race is almost unheard of in AMS Oz. But unfortunately, it has happened. So we're going to start thinking very, very carefully about A, how many laps we've got and have remaining, and B, who's going to come out on top of the pile of this, because look who's at the pointy end at the moment. So Greg Nangle, the professor as they call him, is at the head of the field and so far has managed to thwart the challenges of Brenton Foley in the closing stages of this race. Don't rule out Heath Dixon. He knows how to throw it in there. He's very, very accomplished in the in iRacing and in ARW, and I'm sure he'd love to get a notch under his belt for Bentley. Don't rule out Brennan Ross either. He's coming off a good vein of form from the first race in Barcelona, and good run of form across all the categories he's been running over in the last 6 to 12 months. And then the irrepressible Lewis Wedding sitting back there in 5th as well. The top 5 have all got a shot at taking this race in however many laps are remaining. So 5 very, very fast cars up front, and there's also a couple of cars back there that you wouldn't put a full line through, but you think it's going to be rather difficult for them to do. So that's your likes of Jamie Snow and Will Devonish, who are back in 7th and 9th at the moment. But anything is possible, as AMS Oz has shown over its very short time frame, as all the lead lap cars go through.
That being said, I think that at this point, anything that were to happen that would give Devonish or Snow a shot, or really honestly even Wedding and Brendan Ross, would probably be enough to trigger another safety car, and that would keep Nangle safe to the end. So hopefully everyone's behaved off the restart, and we won't have a safety car to the end, and we'll be able to see a battle between Nangle and Foley.
Yeah, we're hoping that we're going to see a couple of battles in the first little bit of the restart, but not guaranteed at the moment, as we get another lap under the safety car. And as you can see there, actually Roadie's off the circuit again. So at this point, I think probably retirement's probably in order for the 15. In actual fact, where is he? He's it looks like he's at the turn 1-2 chicane. So
yeah, he's gone. He's had an issue at the first chicane. He's just gone across the curb and just lit up the rears and gone straight into the wall for some reason.
Yeah, so he's not having a good debut here in the AMS Oz GT3 series. And we've still got at least another lap and a half here under safety car, because the lead lap cars could have pitted this time around, as you said, and the lapped cars are now the ones that have the opportunity to pit.
Yeah, there's a lot of damage done to that PBF race engineering car of Roadie. Really probably should retire that. There's not much that can be done. It's just locking up into braking zones. He needs to either repair it or retire, because there's not much that's going to be done with that car apart from causing a roving chicane.
That's right. So he's got to catch up to the back of this pack so he can actually come in and serve his stop should he need to serve a stop and go from there.
The biggest problem is he'll spin and cause another safety car, which isn't what we want.
Well, given that I know him personally, I'm in the process of actually sending him a little message just to say just either retire it or keep it on the black top so we can get a green flag finish, because we don't want, as you said, this race to finish under safety car.
You got me, guys?
I certainly do,
Yeah,
Brock.
got you there, Brock.
Talk to us, mate. What do you know?
I'd probably just need to do a quick apology to Greg Nangle. Car just didn't stop. It braked there pretty much every lap this race. And yeah, it just didn't want to pull up for some reason, so drilled the back of him. Unfortunately, it's probably wrecked my race at the same time because I was actually really comfortable there. I reckon I had the pace of Heath, so we'll see what happens in the next few laps, but trying to keep the heat in the brakes now.
All right. So
We're seeing pit stops. Osrob, Bolger are pitting.
Well, they've probably removed themselves from this battle, or they didn't fuel themselves enough. So that's a really interesting element now added to this race. As you can see, there they are in the background. They're in. So that promotes Snow and Ott and Devonish. I mean, they were already in 7th and 9th. Sorry, I apologise. So that hasn't promoted them up the
so
order.
they've pit because they were already behind the group. So that's just get some fresh rubber on as Rody's crashed into the end of the pit lane.
All right.
It's not ideal for him.
So we're probably going to get, if we're getting a green flag this time around, we're probably only going to get about a 3-lap sprint finish. So, Bagsy, what do you know? You're looking at the monitors there in the pit lane.
Doesn't look like we'll be going green flag this time round, unfortunately.
Oh dear. So we're only going to get probably a 2-lap sprint finish then. Maybe 3, depending on what the time is when it gets past. Keep in mind we're doing about 3-minute laps, so it's just gone past the 7-minute mark now. So this will get us to about 4.5 to go, or thereabouts, about 4 minutes to go, and then another lap then. So really going to end up with a 2-lap sprint finish. So not the kind of way we wanted to end this race, because it's going to be a really the battles were shaping up rather nicely for the remaining 15-minute sprint, but still we could end up in a situation where someone throws it down the inside trying to make a last lap lunge work and ultimately cause the safety car that ends the race. So we don't want to see that. So if guys are going to make moves, they've got to get it done cleanly and they've got to get done quickly.
Yeah, and hope that Rody doesn't have any more issues, because last time he had a spin in Ascari, he was all on his lonesome. He had a safety car thrown, so hopefully he's able to just keep it on between the white lines throughout the rest of the race.
Let's hope for our sake he does. So Osrob and Steve Bolger have joined the back of the train, having stopped on that previous lap. And we tick down to 5.5 minutes remaining. So we'll get to the line with 5 on the clock. And then if we get another 3-minute lap, so it means we'll get down to about 2 minutes remaining. And a lap around here has been around about the minute 48 to minute 50 mark. So we might get lucky. We might actually get a 3-lap sprint finish.
Get 3 laps if we come in this lap.
Yeah. So waiting for the signal that we're going to get a green flag next time around.
I haven't seen anything saying that we are, so this might unfortunately either end under the safety car or a 1-lap dash to the end.
Oh dear. Well, not the way, if it is only a 1-lap dash, it is going to be a one hell of a hectic dash. But, you know, we would have hoped that the safety car would have been pulled in by, or be pulling in this lap.
Yeah, the safety car, I believe, is set to enough time for the lead lap cars to pit, the lap down cars to pit, and then I believe it's a random amount of 1, 2, or 3 more laps behind the safety car. If I'm remembering, or at least that is what it used to be. It might have changed since then.
think it's 3, guys.
Rock Harvey there believes it's 3, which means that we'll do this lap, one more, and then a 1-lap sprint to the end with the safety car restart, which will just throw a spanner straight into the works.
Yeah, well, that's the biggest killer out of all of this, because it's the leader's prerogative to go. When they get to the control line, there'll be no passing, but also they're not allowed to be overlapping either. So it limits the amount of opportunities you have to pass, because you'll only got, as we said earlier in the broadcast, the primary passing opportunity is down into turn 1. And also you can get a pass done at several points on track, but that's the traditional first passing spot.
I'm also unsure of how the game handles what happens when the safety car is still out when the clock ticks to 0, if the race will just end or if it will indeed come into the pits to do so that final lap can happen, or if it will just stay out and keep the field on the safety car. So we're sort of venturing slightly into the unknown here.
We certainly are, but there's 3 minutes left on the clock, and if the safety car doesn't come in this lap, actually, in fact, we're going to end under safety car. So even if the safety car came in this lap, we're only going to, if the safety car says it's not coming in at the end of this lap, we are not going to get a sprint finish. So,
well, that's what I was saying before. It might be that it comes in because the time will hit 0
while they're under the safety car lap.
While they're on the next lap. So I'm not sure if the safety car will come in so that there's that final lap dash, or if the safety car will stay out and just continue to lead the field round. But we'll find out momentarily, because if the safety car doesn't send the message that it's coming in now, then we'll definitely finish on the safety car.
Well, here we go. This will be the moment of truth. We find out what's going on.
Looks like green flag next time round, so it'll be 1 lap, win, lose, probably not draw, win, lose, or crash.
Yeah, win, lose, or DNF, I think it is. So we'll soon.
Green, white checker.
Green, white. Everyone hopes for a green, white checker. That's the NASCAR style, but we know we're time certain in these endurance races. But who's going to be the man on the top step? Any of the top 5 can win this race, but it's going to take a hell of an effort for someone like a Lewis Wedding out of P5. He's going to need a lot of luck to go his way to be able to make this work. So realistically, you're going to have to put it into the top 3. So Nangle, Foley and Dixon to see what they can do. Oh, Lewis Wedding getting very, very loose out of the back there. Loose like his Loose SimSport team name.
Rody's really struggling with his car. Even on a safety car, it just doesn't want to turn to the left. It refused to at the second part of the first chicane, and he went straight spearing into the wall yet again. So not covering himself in glory, unfortunately, the PBF race engineering stand-in.
No. Snow just got hit. So Jamie Snow's been hit. So we look back through the field. So something's happened to Jamie Snow. While we're under safety car, let's see if we can pull up a replay of what's happened here. And was he drilled by Corey Ott? Yes, he was. He drilled by Corey Ott and into the wall. So I don't know if that's Corey Ott not paying attention or what's happening there.
Concertina effect combined with him not paying attention. So that's Jamie Snow's been turfed twice in this race. That is very unfortunate.
Yeah, he'll be seething under the helmet in that car.
He won't be happy. Anyway,
all right,
time has expired. Now we will do 42 laps, which is a lot less than we thought we'd do. But there is 1 lap to go. Everyone is weaving side to side. They are getting prepared for the last lap here in Monza. We called it redemption round, but I'm not sure how much redemption has really happened in the back half of this race.
No, I don't. I think you're right, Bagsy. Well, here we go. We got 1 lap to go. Those that are trying to redeem themselves haven't done a very good job today. But if your belts weren't tight enough, now you really need to tighten them down, because the safety car is in, the clock is at 0, and we have got a 1 lap mad dash to the flag. Now Dixon's hanging back here. I didn't think that's probably a good idea to be doing. You probably want to be right up with these guys to take advantage. But what's going to happen? Nangle, Foley, Dixon, Ross, Wedding, maybe Harvey's in this too. Here we go. Nangle hits the gas. Foley goes with him. Dixon was a bit too far back, but Brendan Ross has got Lewis Wedding for company. Foley looks to the outside, and Nangle has to go a little bit on defensive side. Dixon's going to have to defend. Here comes Brendan Ross down the inside, but he couldn't get it stopped, and he has to shortcut the chicane, so he's going to have to surrender that place back. That'll put him almost out of contention. Wedding will stay with Dixon. Foley will stay with Nangle. Here they come. Round Curva Grande for the final time.
Is Foley going to make a banzai move into the second chicane? I think he might. Nangle thinks he might because he's covering the inside.
He certainly is covering the inside, and at the moment he holds station. So we're about to go through the first sector. One down, 2 sectors to go. Foley still in hot pursuit of the SLS. Dixon holding down third. Wedding still giving it what for. Brendan Ross probably a bit too far back to challenge. And these are the third from third on back. They're going to rely on a mistake from the leading pair. So back to the leading pair we go. Nangle with a little wiggle.
Slight twitch. This is going to give Foley the ascendancy here into Ascari.
He had a little wiggle out of the second Lesmo, and that's put Foley right on the back. They're touching, they're bump drafting, they're really, really, really close. Foley's going to have to hang it around the outside here. Nangle goes real defensive and gives him another little tap, a little bit more Morse code. Now there's only one more opportunity left to get the job done. Foley. Dixon's trying to buy into this if he can. Wedding's going with him. Brendan Ross is now hanging on to the back of Wedding, so Wedding's a bit too far back to challenge. Nangle on the inside. Foley on the outside. Nangle looks like he's going to hold the line. Foley round the outside. Can he get the job done? Can he get on the power a bit early? No, he can't. Dixon's going to buy into this if he can. Foley tucks back into the draft. What's going to happen? The top 5 are going to cross the line within a second of each other. This is incredible. Foley, Nangle's just weaving. He managed to get it done. Greg Nangle wins this race. Foley second, Dixon third, Wedding fourth, Ross fifth. Brock Harvey held on for sixth from a hard-charging Corey Ott. Devonish, Snow and Osrob rounding out your top 10. And carnage ensues at the back end of this race.
Jamie Snow, I feel, letting out his frustrations there slightly.
Oh, absolutely.
And I feel a bit deserved to... He got turfed that many times that race. It was probably his race, if not for that. He's very angry at Corey Ott.
You can bet your bottom dollar he is. Absolutely. Have a look at the margin, the final margin in the end. Less than 1/10 of a second, 0.94 of a second. Nangle to Foley, Dixon crossed the line, Wedding and Ross all within a second of each other. So the sprint finish sets it up, but it could have been so much better had not for that last safety car, because it was just setting up that it was looking like it was going to be a really, really tasty battle. But the Professor manages to school the field and gets the job done, as he has done several times last year in the WEC when he took out the LMP2 title, and he's got his first win in GT World Challenge here at Monza.
Yeah, I bet that was what a race that was, and that final lap was as we expected. It was actually quite good racing, that last lap. There wasn't too much argy-bargy there, plenty of fair racing, which is good, and an excellent battle for the front. Foley attacked with what looked like everything he had there, and I don't think there's anything more he could have done. Maybe a slightly different line to Parabolica, but really, I don't think you could do too much more than what he did and not come away with a win. Nangle just placed his car in the right spot and remained unruffled, as he is well known to do.
Absolutely right. He has done a superb job, Greg Nangle. He led pretty much just about all of that race from the minute that Matt Williams went in, and then obviously Brendan Ross having to serve the penalty for the drive-through of the stop-go. That really wasn't his fault at the beginning of that race, so it could have ended up quite differently after all of that. But at the end of the day, the Professor ends up at the top of the pile. Well, we've got some of the drivers starting to filter in here to have a chat and have a listen to what's going on. So, Bagsy, we might start with our third place man. His first podium, I believe, in AMS Oz.
Is that me?
That would be you, Mr. Dixon.
Negative. I've had some wins.
You've had some wins?
Yeah, in the Formula 3.
Oh, there you go. So I stand corrected. It was that long ago. I didn't know about it. But,
It was a long time ago, yes.
I was hoping that Bagsy was going to pick up the reins here, but seeing that you
Sorry,
decided
I
to...
lost my audio slightly there.
You are. So slightly to pick up the slack. How'd you go? You felt you were in that battle for a little while, and you were up and down throughout the course of the thing, and you were involved in a few little minor tangles.
Yeah, look, that first pit stop was an absolute disaster. Had I have known that Rob was the pit box right in front of me, I probably would have stayed out one more lap because he stopped right in front of me and I couldn't get in the pit box. And I had the same issues I had last week with the not being able to stop on the dime. So I went past it. And then in an effort to reverse back into it, the only thing stopping me from reversing too far back was, unfortunately, Rob.
Yes, we did catch that on the broadcast, unfortunately. So
I got to apologise to Rob for that. That was painful. I don't know how much damage it caused him or it caused me, but I was just sort of sat there with my head in my hands and thought, oh, here we go again.
Well, the only thing we were joking about during the broadcast, Heath, was that last race you ran out of fuel in the last lap. You were very, very lucky. You got classified as a finisher, so you got points for that. This time you didn't have that particular. Okay. Yeah, this time you didn't have that particular drama. So I think that's probably one less thing you have to worry about.
Yeah, look, there were numbers. I think you've all seen that, the meme of someone trying to figure something out with all the calculations and stuff going on around their head. That was the Bentley team.
Well, you've come away with a podium, which is a good result. Keeps you in the championship hunt for the second leg of this, so well done. And Bagsy, go and hunt down our second place man, because he was in with it till the very end there, until that last safety car, and just couldn't quite get it done at the end.
Yeah, Brenton, how'd you feel about that? You came very close, less than a tenth of a second. How was you feeling about the race overall, and especially that last lap battle?
Yeah, I don't know. I tried something really different by pitting early, and it worked. I got lucky with the safety car, and it kept me in it. I knew my pace was not the best in the field, but not terrible. I was kind of annoyed that safety car came out. Like, my fuel was questionable at that time, but then when it came out, it just went for so many laps. Every time we went round, I knew I wouldn't be able to get past him in a lap. It'd take more than one, because he's extremely good at defending, and I've found every time I seem to get a draft, he must have his wing one notch lower than mine, because as soon as I'd pull out and get alongside, he'd just drive on by again. But it was a lot of fun.
We did notice that you seemed to stall when you came out from his draft, and I can imagine that was quite frustrating for you. What
extremely.
Where do you reckon you would have got him if you had a couple more laps?
I was a lot faster through. Faster, and I knew that he was struggling through Lesmos and right at the end of Ascari. My car was really, really good. It was almost on rails there. I could just jump on the throttle and it would just stick. So I'd need to get past there and get the good run, but then you just have the top end speed.
Yeah, fair enough. It was excellent. It did seem like you had the brakes on him as well, but just not quite there, but excellently raced. And I'll hand it over to Nether for our winner interview.
Well, they call him the Professor, and he did an awesome job at defending those last couple of laps, also right up until the safety car came out. So, Greg, you've notched yourself another win in GT competition, and you didn't have it all your own way in that those last sort of 20-odd minutes. You were definitely under the pump.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, the safety car probably got me the win there. I was really low on fuel, and I didn't change tyres on that other stop that I did, so my tyres were a bit buggered as well. I don't know how I managed to hold out Brenton at the end there. He was all over me. It was a fun race, though. I really enjoyed it, even though I was struggling right at the end there.
Well, talking on the tyre debate as well, we ended up having a look at a few drivers that ended up deciding they decided to not change tyres at some of the stops. How did you make the decision to not change tyres? Was it a line ball decision?
Yeah, it was. Fuel and tyres were sort of line ball in this race. And I was really umming and ahhing all the way through leading up to the race and then right through the race as well as to what to do. And I think the safety car saved me, as I said. I just thought I wouldn't change the tyres in that stop because it was a quick stop, an early stop, and they weren't too bad. And I was just looking for something, some advantage somewhere, because there was lots of guys out there that were just as quick as I was.
Well, your first place gives you a nice haul of points after your run at Barcelona, so you're right up there in the championship standings. And your thoughts on what lies ahead next? We've got a really big 2-hour one coming up around Le Mans that I think a lot of the field are rather looking forward to. Your thoughts?
Oh yes, me too. I'd like to get that one, of course, because it's another step in the Triple Crown. So I'd really like to get that. I love that track. I don't know. I think the Merc's probably pretty well suited to it. It seems to stop well and goes pretty good in a straight line. Maybe a little thirsty, but not too bad. So I should go quite well there if I can just concentrate for 2 hours. That's a big ask for everyone, and I guess the person who does that best is probably going to get there.
Well, I think you're probably right. You just summed it up perfectly. You get a little bit of respite down some of those straights, but there are quite a number of technical sections involved too, and the person that does the best job over 2 hours is going to walk away with the chocolates in that one.
Yeah, sometimes the straights can be a double-edged sword, because you do sort of get that breather, and your mind can wander when you're doing that, and then you come to the braking and you've suddenly missed it, and that can be the difference.
Absolutely.
So we'll all be concentrating our best, I hope.
Well,
I was really sad to see what happened to Matt. I don't know what happened to him, but Matt was by far and away the fastest amongst all of us. So it's I guess he dropped, and that's horrible thing to see. And I have to apologise to Rossi too, because on that first pit stop I forgot to pull over to the right, and I held him up. So pretty bad to your team, mate, too.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Matt was very, very quick and set an absolutely stonking qualifying lap. Unfortunately, he did tell me during the broadcast that his game froze and ended up having to bail on that one. So you're right. Unfortunate for Scruff. He would have been right up there challenging for the win, and he was definitely a quick candidate and certainly would have been right in there for the contention for the win. So we'll look forward to the Le Mans race in approximately 2 weeks from now, so March 17. Lock it into your calendar, folks, because that is going to be one hell of a battle. Our first venture in AMS Oz to the Le Mans for a 2-hour endurance race. In actual fact, coming up a bit later on in the year, one of the special events, Blue Ribbon events, going to be a Le Mans 6-hour not long after, I believe the week after the actual Le Mans 24-hour takes place in real time. So that one is going to be a challenge in itself as well. So we're visiting the very famous endurance circuit twice in this calendar year. So Bagsy, we're through 2 of the European legs. We've got 1 more to go, and championships are shaping up nicely at the moment. We've got a couple of different winners and a couple of mixed up podiums as well, so it's not over by any means just yet, or it's not pointing in any particular direction as to who's going to come out on top. It's very, very even at the moment.
Yeah, it certainly is, and arguably Devonish, who has been most consistently fast, has scored a lot less points than we would have expected at the start of the first race. So it'll be interesting to see how he bounces back in Le Mans and how everyone deals with Le Mans, because it's very different to Monza in terms of there's some very fast straights, but there's a lot more technical stuff, and it's very difficult to set up a car for it.
No, you're absolutely right. You've got to look at that, the low downforce and the high downforce component of it, and you've got to find precisely the right balance to make all that work. And we will discuss a bit more of that with you all in approximately 2 weeks from now, when we go to Circuit de la Sarthe at Le Mans in France. So for the moment, this has been the 90 minutes of Monza for the AMS Oz GT3 World Challenge. We will see you again in 2 weeks for round 3. Until then, as always, please drive safely, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.